Well. Hello, I'm Riley. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, subscribe. But also, I make videos on all of my interests, including TV, books, art, animals, whatever. And this is the third and final installment of my House of Anubis series, where I give you a recap and commentary on each season. And this is the third and final season of House of Anubis. Just to preface, there are 40 episodes in this season, and it goes from episode 151 to 230, I believe. And I'm this was my least favorite season, I think. A lot of characters left, and it just made it kind of like, this isn't the show that I've been watching and loving, so it kind of just made it less enjoyable for that reason. I don't like change. I have my comfort characters, and I didn't want them to leave. And mind you, one of the characters that left is the main character, the one that the entire first two seasons were centered on, the literal chosen one. Hello? How are we gonna... You can't just replace the chosen one. Anyways, I digress. Let's just jump right in then.
Welcome to the House of Anubis. Hope you're ready, because some pretty strange stuff seems to happen around here. So it's a good thing these guys are on the case. They call themselves Sabuna.
So, episode 1 starts with the students all arriving back to campus. They're starting a new term. We see Fabian and Eddie arriving. We see Mr. Sweet, and also he's looking extra tan here. Not sure what that's all about. I guess maybe he went to the pool a lot this summer. Don't know. We see Jerome and Mara reunite and share a cute hug because remember at the end of season 2, they got together. We see Alfie and Patricia show back up, and Patricia is like hiding from Eddie for some reason because also they got together at the end of season 2, or all throughout season 2, really. Amber and Joy are back at the House of Anubis, and Trudy is there greeting everyone. Fabian's wondering where Nina is, and that everyone kind of says that they haven't really heard from her all summer. And of course, our boy Victor is still there as well. Joy tries to get information from Patricia about her trip to America to visit Eddie this summer, but she doesn't say much. And Eddie is in his room, and when he opens his wardrobe, he gets a vision of a girl visiting her grandfather in the hospital, and the grandfather tells her that she must take this key and go to the Anubis estate because something bad is going to happen. So Eddie's getting visions because we also learned in season 2 that he is the Osirian, something like that. We then see Victor talking to his stuffed bird, Corbière, and he tells him that the day that he has been waiting for is almost upon them and that a big secret will be revealed. Okay. Then we see Trudy and Mr. Sweet come in to Anubis' house, and they tell all the students that Nina will not be coming back to school and that that's all the information they have, and everyone starts freaking out. So Nina's not in this season at all. She gets mentioned here and there. She's not in this season. Okay? Certainly a choice. I don't know why. I could probably look it up. I'll look it up. How about that? Because I'm curious, actually. Okay, so according to this website that I don't know if is a trusted source, says that according to interviews with the show's creators and cast members, the decision to write Nina out of the show was a creative choice that allowed for the introduction of new characters and storylines. The show's creators wanted to explore new themes and ideas, and Nina's character had reached a natural conclusion. But I think you can do that while still including her in the show. Additionally, the show's production team had to consider the availability and contractual obligations of the cast members, which may have played a role in the decision to write Nina out of the show. So maybe the actress wasn't available. Okay, so Natalia Ramos, who was the actress who played Nina, had a contract that expired after the second season. So the show's creators may have decided not to renew her contract. Which, as a character, I think she was missed. However, as an actress, she left a lot to be desired. So I can't blame them too much. Anyways, back to business. So Nina's gone. Fabian is distraught, and Eddie looks kind of suspicious while they're talking about how none of them have heard from her. We also are introduced to a girl named Willow, who is in Nina's room saying that she's been on the wait list for Anubis' house for forever, and she thinks that she's going to move into Nina's old room. Eddie is frantically searching his room for something, and then Patricia announces that her and Eddie actually split up. Eddie opens a door and knocks in and runs into a girl, and it turns out to be the one from his vision. And she is also American, and her name is KT, like not Katie, like the letters K and T. And she's the new girl. And Eddie tells her that he's seen her somewhere and she's the girl from his dream. And everyone's like, oh, Eddie's just hitting on her or whatever. Next day is Amber's birthday, and Jerome and Mara are doing something for her, so they hide all of the mail so she can't see the presents she got in the mail, because they want her to think that everyone forgot her birthday so that they can actually surprise her later with everything. However, Alfie actually did forget to get her a present, so he goes to Jerome and makes a deal to pay him extra to get in on his gift for Amber. Also, we have a new teacher that's been introduced. Her name is Miss Denby, and she is teaching history and business education. And we all know that when a new teacher is introduced in this show, something is up. Eddie asks KT if she has a sick grandfather, because he remembers seeing that in his vision. And he also asks if he gave her a key, and she just kind of laughs him off and pretends that she doesn't know what he's talking about, because it's really creepy if someone just knows something about you that you didn't tell them. And yeah, whatever. Also, if you notice, this is my lazy attempt at a uniform. The Anubis colors, they wear like red jackets, like blazer kind of things, which I do not have. And I also didn't feel like wearing a collared shirt today, as I did in previous videos, because it's hot as balls outside, and I can't be arsed, as the Brits would say. So this is what you're getting. I hope you don't mind. Fabian gets a message online, I think, or on his phone, I can't remember, from Nina that says everything is explained in the letter, and they're all like, what letter? And Eddie is looking real nervous and guilty. So Nina replies back and says to ask Eddie. And so Eddie then gets advice from KT on how to write a letter to a boy to break up with him. So presumably Nina wrote a letter to Fabian to like explain things and break up with him, and gave it to Eddie because they are both from America. He doesn't have it, so he's gonna rewrite it and pretend that Nina wrote it. Okay. New teacher Miss Denby is having some weird stuff moved into her apartment thing. It's like a covered, it's looking real sketchy. So clearly she's up to something, as all these teachers are. Jerome catches Eddie trying to write a letter to Fabian to break up with him from Nina. Then Eddie walks in on KT holding the key from his vision and a photo of her grandfather. And he gets another vision where he sees the new teacher, Miss Denby, holding the key as well and saying it will soon be time. And then she takes the sheet off of the thing that was moved into her apartment, and it's a person in like a tank suit, I'll insert a picture, thing that has like a glass bubble and like is making all these like mechanical noises. And yeah, so so Eddie tells KT about his dream, and he finds out that her grandpa died, and she gets upset with him for like bringing it up, I guess. And Alfie gives Amber the present he got her from Jerome, and it turns out to be bacon flavored dental floss. Great gift. Jerome tells Fabian to search Eddie's bag for the supposed letter from Nina, because they're like, why hasn't Eddie given you the letter? That's kind of shitty of him. He must be hiding it. So he searches Eddie's bag and he finds a letter from Nina. And Eddie tells Mr. Sweet about a project in history class where they look into their family trees that Miss Denby gave them to do. And Mr. Sweet like freaks out and he goes and he's like, no, and kicks Eddie out of his office. And he later goes and talks to Miss Denby and tells her that they are not allowed to do the family tree project. So interesting. Clearly there's some information he doesn't want the students finding out about their family trees. So Fabian figures out that the letter he found is actually a fake, and he thinks that Victor and Mr. Sweet are in on whatever happened to Nina, kind of like what happened to Joy from the first season. And so he goes to Victor's office to snoop or find information and things like that, and he finds Nina's record, like school record folder, and takes it with him, see if there's any clues in there. Patricia and Fabian find Nina's locket, the Eye of Horus that opens everything in the house basically. They find it in his dresser, and so they think this is further proof that he's in on whatever happened to Nina. Patricia looks on Eddie's computer and sees that he's been emailing Nina. Nina sent him something that said, "Eddie, I'm serious, we can't be together anymore." And so she thinks that it means that they had some sort of summer romance and cheated on her, and Nina cheated on Fabian, and they cheated together, and that's why she didn't come back. She felt so guilty. The Willow girl is still hanging around every once in a while and gives Amber a birthday present, whatever. She also tells Mara that she's moving in, and Mara tells her no. Mara finds her quite annoying, and Trudy tells Willow to go back to her own house. I thought she was going to have some sort of evil arc, just from how they portrayed her in these first couple episodes. I was like, why is she sniffing around so much? So, could happen. We'll see. That's why I have, like, notes about her, because I'm like, I thought that she was going to... Anyways. So, the rest of Anubis' house is hiding downstairs to surprise Amber for her birthday with a little surprise party. So they surprise her and give her all of her presents. Fabian and Patricia are there, and they are in a foul mood because of the information they think they found out on Eddie's computer. And Fabian is like staring Eddie down and confronts him about the summer romance, and he yells at him and basically ruins the whole party. And he tries to like attack him.
Going on, and you're gonna tell me.
Did you need to back off?
Okay.
It's a lot. Fabian's doing too much. Like, let's relax. It's very funny. Like, I just cannot. Fabian's another actor that's like okay. Like, he's just okay, and so I just really can't take him serious when he gets mad, because it's very little build up. It's just like,
I have no idea.
Don't lie to me.
Nothing and then yelling. It's very like, you know what I'm saying? So Eddie tells him that he'll tell him the truth, but only in private. KT is also like looking around the house to try to figure out what her key goes to, and she stumbles upon the basement door, and it's actually open. So she goes down there and sees all of Victor's weird stuff, and he's also down there, and she gets in trouble. And so Eddie finally tells Fabian that the Osirian and the Chosen One need to be kept apart, and that's why Nina didn't come back. They weren't dating, but she gave him the locket because it needed to be at Anubis' house, and that he lost the letter that Nina wrote, and so that's why he wrote the fake one. So R.I.P. Nina. Mr. Sweet ambushes Victor while Victor is in the woods waiting to meet with someone, and Mr. Sweet says that he knows he's meeting the Seeker because he is the Seeker, whatever that means. Amber is opening all of her presents, and one of them is in this like ornate box, and she opens it, and it's like this huge gaudy bracelet, and no one claims it as being from them, so Alfie takes credit for it and says, that he did it because she likes it and he wants boyfriend points. But he looks at the postage on the package and it says it's actually something Victor. It's postmarked to Victor. Mr. Sweet tells Victor that he didn't tell him about being the seeker because he was sworn to secrecy by his father. And we also find out that Victor is something called the Great Enabler, and that there is a third someone who is the keeper. But they don't know who or where this person is. Eddie finally finds Nina's original letter and gives it to Fabian. Eddie stumbles upon KT again and he touches her key and has a vision of being terrorized by sarcophagi and like freaks out. And he tells KT about the vision and how he's the Osirian and that she needs to tell him everything she knows so they can figure out what's going on. Eddie tells Fabian about his visions as well because he wants to know if it can be an Osirian thing. So Fabian presumably is going to do some research. I don't know. Victor and Mr. Sweet are still waiting in the woods for their third person. And Miss Denby shows up and says that she has been keeping something safe for them, and they figure out that she's the keeper. Alfie finds something in the paper that wrapped the gift he gave Amber, and it says Keeper, Seeker, and Enabler. So clearly it is something to do with whatever hijinks Victor and Mr. Sweet are up to. Victor and Miss Denby are fighting because he didn't receive the bracelet and the instructions that were supposed to be with it, and she refuses to show them what she's been keeping until he does, because she's like, you had one job and you couldn't even do that. Also, we have no clue. I don't think we ever find out who sent him this bracelet. Who is this other person in on all this? Probably one of the other descendants, maybe? That word will make sense later. Okay. Well, no. I don't know. Maybe it's something he found at like an auction or from a thing. I don't know. So Fabian is like refusing to read this letter from Nina because he's scared of what it might say. So he asks Amber to read it out for him. And it says that she found out that the Osirian and the Chosen One have to be kept apart or terrible things will happen, and her gran got ill again, and that's when she decided she wasn't coming back and that he was her first love. But now it's time for them to move on. KT tells Eddie that the only place she hasn't tried the key is Victor's office, so they go to try it and the key gets stuck in the lock. And so Victor catches them and takes the key. That was quick. Alfie's trying to find a replica online of the bracelet to leave for Victor, and finds out that it once belonged to the god of Anubis, supposedly. He also unfolded the paper he found, and it has a bunch of symbols on it. Alfie answers Amber's phone and finds out that she got into a New York fashion school that she visited while over summer break, or did like a camp or something there, I think maybe. But he doesn't tell her about the phone call because she doesn't want her to leave him. Patricia finds out that KT helped Eddie write the fake breakup letter, so she does so she gets jealous and angry and does her classic thing where she throws a liquid at them, and so she throws a cup of orange juice in her face. But KT's not one to back down and throws a bowl of cereal back at her. This is what Patricia needs. She needs a little taste of her own medicine. Alfie tells Amber that Victor is up to something and that the bracelet is actually his and is an ancient Egyptian artifact, and he'll probably come looking for it eventually, so they need to figure out what to do with it. Victor finds out from Trudy that the students took all the packages for Amber's birthday, and he goes to confront Amber about it. So he goes into Amber's room without waiting for her to tell him to come in. Like, he just knocks and immediately opens the door. Sir, what if she was naked? What if she was in the middle of changing clothes? This is insane behavior from a supposedly adult figure at a school, right? Just me? This is a common theme throughout the whole series. Victor is very inappropriate. I mean, obviously, with his whole immortal being wanting to be immortal and shit like that. So Amber tells him that she actually threw the package away because she thought it was junk mail. And he gets pissed and leaves. Alfie deletes an email from Amber's phone about fashion school because he's still trying to hide the fact that she got in. They try to convince Fabian to get Sabuna back together, but he doesn't want to do it without Nina. But he can't resist the mystery and kind of gets pulled back in. Patricia's getting jealous of KT and Eddie spending so much time together. Victor searches through the trash for the delivery that is supposedly in there, but finds nothing. And Joy makes a family tree just for fun, even though their assignment got canceled. And Miss Denby overhears them talking about it and is like, I don't know if you guys should be doing that. Fabian is trying to figure out what the symbols mean on the paper that Alfie found and finds out that one of them means dark sun. Victor comes in and gathers all of Anubis' house together to find out where his parcel is. And Willow's still around, just trying to be included. And during this interrogation, Amber discovers that Alfie has her phone. So he's been keeping it with him so he can intercept any fashion school information. Eddie says that he has Victor's package in his room, so he goes to get it as an excuse to break into Victor's office and get KT's key. And Victor shows up while he's in his office and locks him, and Eddie locks Victor out of his own office. And while he's searching in there, he has another vision of finding the place that the key fits into. He finds the key and comes out to Victor, and KT comes up and saves the day with a parcel that she supposedly found in Eddie's room. And he opens it, and it turns out to just be an encyclopedia that he supposedly won. So I don't know how KT did that, but anyways, or maybe it was real. I don't know. Joy's family tree goes missing. Yeah. Cool. Victor talks to Mr. Sweet and Miss Denby and says that the parcel was a fake and that the students must still have it, and it's gotta be Mara because she was the one who was there when it was delivered, when all the mail was delivered. And Joy finds out that KT left her family tree in Miss Denby's office, so KT and Eddie go to look for it, and they look in her bag to see if she confiscated it, and they find a second key that is very similar to KT's key. But Miss Denby comes in and catches them in her room, and they play it off as if as if Eddie's in there because he forgot to turn in his assignment. And they decide to look into Miss Denby because why does she have a key like that? Sabuna is trying to figure out what the symbols mean on the paper, and they notice that one of them is repeated over and over again, and it just so happens to be the same symbol that's on KT's key. But obviously they don't know that but they obviously don't know that the symbol's on the key because they don't know that the key exists, because Eddie and KT haven't told them that. So KT and Eddie follow Miss Denby to wherever she's going and see the code she puts in to get into her living quarters, and they decide to sneak in after she leaves. Joy, Mara, and Patricia decide to form something they call the Anubis Sisterhood in an effort to be more assertive and say what they want and go after what they want. And so Joy draws like a little symbol on each of their palms to signify it. And so, in an effort to be more assertive, Mara yells at Alfie after he interrupts another one of her and Jerome's dates, but then she immediately backtracks. Joy, in her efforts, tries to ask Fabian out, but he's still hung up on Nina, so she doesn't end up going through with it. Victor comes into Mara's room and questions her about the package, but he's being very vague about what he's accusing her of, so she ends up fessing up to doing Alfie's homework for him, and Victor realizes that he's made an error and that she does not have his package. Eddie and KT go into Miss Denby's building and they look around and find a bunch of creepy stuff like dead animals and being preserved in jars like worms and crabs and things like that. Fabian finally figured out the secret code he was trying to figure out, and it turns out to be referring to the dog constellation. So he puts the star map of the constellation on top of the symbols, and it like matches up to specific symbols. Miss Denby meets with Mr. Sweet and Victor again, and she threatens to get Victor replaced if he can't find the package he was supposed to get. And she says she's very close to the patron and also mentions Victor's father, and Victor gets very upset because he's very touchy about his father, remember? Miss Denby's very like mean and sassy and walks Victor like a dog, to be honest, which I can appreciate. Someone needs to, because this man is too big for his damn britches. Anyways, Fabian figures out the hieroglyphic note, and it says, "When the dark sun is born in the English sky, the children of children sleep the day by. Give the loop of fire to the sleeping man, and the dark sun of Egypt will rise again." What does that mean? Alfie tells Amber about what he's been hiding from her regarding the fashion school, and Eddie finds a secret passage in Miss Denby's apartment thing and finds the lock he saw in his vision that KT's key fits into. However, Miss Denby gets home, so they go into the secret room using the key in order to hide there from her. But Miss Denby can like hear something going on and is like trudging around the house looking for whoever's there. But they see something in whatever room they're in and start screaming. And it turns out to be the man in the tank suit thing that we saw in Eddie's vision. And Miss Denby is coming into the secret room, so they hide in the like sarcophagi that are in the room with them. They like open up like a standing up casket, like what a vampire might sleep in. And so Miss Denby leaves without seeing them because she doesn't see anyone up there. And Sabuna is still trying to figure out what the riddle means with no luck. Victor now thinks that Trudy must be the one who has the package, and Mr. Sweet tells him to basically like honeypot her and ask her on a date or something, since it's common knowledge that Trudy has a soft spot for him, which I don't know if I've mentioned at all in any of these videos, but yes, she very much does. She's very much, I don't know, she thinks Victor's attractive or something. I don't know. But even though he's like very rude to her, well, I guess some girls do like that, huh? So he asks Trudy out on a date using a note because he has no riz whatsoever. Patricia finds KT's key in her drawer and takes it to Fabian to show him, and so they think that she's working with Victor because it has the same symbol on it that's on the hieroglyphic note paper thing. And Fabi tells Eddie to stop talking about the Osirian stuff to KT because they don't know if they can trust her and think that she might be using him as a mole. And they're doing a project in Miss Denby's business studies class where they have to come up with a new snack food idea and market it to everyone. And Amber's dad is going to be the judge because he's some business guy. And the winner will win a new laptop. So that's fun. And it's time for Victor and Trudy's date, and he kind of just set up like a little charcuterie board kind of situation and tea in his office, and there's like candles and music playing, and Alfie and Fabian are listening in on the date, and they hear him question her about the parcel, and she tries to leave because he's being very like aggressive about it, but he hears like the floor creaking outside the door where Alfie and Fabian are hiding, and so he opens his office door and Alfie and Fabian fall into the room, and Fabian has his guitar because he was practicing downstairs, so they pretend that they were there to serenade their date. And Victor tells him that it is not a date, and Trudy leaves the office crying. Trisha asks KT to do the business project with her to kind of get close, keep your enemies close, I guess. And then Eddie gets another vision where he sees a different girl than KT, sitting by a hospital bed. And my first thought was that it was like a young Miss Denby. And then we see Eddie and KT try to get some info about Miss Denby, and they ask about her previous school she worked at and previous jobs and things like that. And they also eavesdrop on Victor's phone call, and they hear him schedule a meeting with someone. So they follow him to see who he's meeting with, and they are just like not very subtle about it at all. They're like, he could just turn around and see them, basically. But they see that he's meeting with Miss Denby and another man, but they can't really see who it is until they like make a noise, and the man turns around and they see that it is Mr. Sweet, and Eddie's like, oh shit, what is my father up to? And then Joy decides to buck up and ask Fabian out, and he turns her down because he just wants to be friends. But Willow overhears this. Eddie asks Patricia about his dad being in cahoots with Victor, and she's like, you don't know? And he's like, no, what? And so she tells him about like all the stuff he was involved with in season 1. Was he involved in season 2 stuff? I think so, yeah. And he like gets pissed at her and Fabian for never telling him that his dad was in on all this crazy stuff, basically kidnapping a girl. Maybe that was some information that Eddie might like to know. And they were like, Patricia was like, I thought Fabian told you. And Fabian was like, I thought Patricia told you.
I thought you knew.
Fabian figures out that another one of the symbols alludes to the gatehouse, which is the place where Miss Denby's living quarters are. So Sabuna goes to try to get into the gatehouse, and they find like a secret side door. And Joy leaves to go back to Anubis' house because she's sad about Fabian. And Willow finds her crying in her room. And I don't know, this is another point where I was getting suspicious of Willow, because I was like, why is she just creeping around this house when like no one else is there? She doesn't live there. And she says that it's because fate brought her there. But whatever. Eddie tips off his dad, that Mr. Sweet, that he was on to him. So he gathers Victor and Miss Denby, and they also go to the gatehouse to check things over to make sure that the students didn't get in or anything like that. But Sabuna hears them coming, so they go and hide in different places. And Amber is in like the secret room, I think, or something. And Amber overhears Victor say that he wants to see the sleeper. And so she follows them into the secret room and sees the guy in the suit, in the tank suit thing. And he overhears Victor say that it's been 90 years since Anubis cursed the guy in the suit, and that they are going to awaken him soon during the ceremony. And Miss Denby says that without the bracelet and instructions, there is no ceremony. So they leave, and Amber gets locked in the secret room. Miss Denby vaguely says that if anyone tries to get the sleeper, that she will kill them. So that's really good. She's insane. Joy tells Patricia that she doesn't want to be involved in the Sabuna stuff anymore because it's too hard with Fabian and she needs to focus on herself. Eddie refuses to believe the stuff that he learned about his dad, but him and KT overhear Patricia talking about Amber still being in the gatehouse and tells them that they need to go get her out because Miss Denby is dangerous. Eddie finds out that Miss Denby was lying about her last teaching job, so that's even more reason to not trust her and that Amber might be in trouble. And now it is time for them to present their business projects, and Sabuna is still looking for Amber, and Willow tells Fabian that he really hurt Joy, so he tries to talk to her, but she's acting like she's fine. Eddie goes to search his dad's office to see if he can find any proof that he was or wasn't in on all this stuff. And he finds like the Anubis jackal mask in one of his drawers, which, why are we keeping that in our office drawer like that? So he knows that it is true. Amber's father is there to judge the projects, and Patricia tells him and the teachers that Amber's sick. Sabuna breaks back into the gatehouse, and Miss Denby comes in, so they hide, and she goes up into the secret room where Amber is. Amber gets caught and she like passes out and pretends that she was sleepwalking and somehow got there. And Eddie and KT look on Miss Denby's computer and find a file where she keeps like all of her information, like passport information and bank details, in like one like Word document kind of thing. And they use it to find out about her, and they find out that all of the information is accurate, but it's all for a different person who just so happens to be the girl that Eddie saw in his vision. Miss Denby brings Victor in to decide what to do with Amber, but Alfie and Fabian and Patricia go to tell Amber's dad that she's missing, and Mr. Sweet comes out and tells him that she's not missing, but that she's at the gatehouse with Miss Denby, and her dad, Amber's dad, like demands to go with him because he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? My daughter is missing. And Mr. Sweet kind of like tries to talk him out of it, but he's like, no, take me to my daughter. Amber pretends not to remember anything while Miss Denby and Victor are questioning her about how she got there and stuff. And Victor threatens Amber to do as they told her or all of her friends will disappear. So she tells her dad that she slept walked and got locked in the gatehouse, and he gets mad at her. Like, he's like, I've done all of these things for you, and this is how you thank me? As if it's her choice to sleepwalk. Like, what? And it was very strange. But the teachers are like smirking, like, and Amber, she looks really sad, and I feel really bad for her. And Mr. Sweet comes in and tells everyone what happened with Amber, and Sabuna's like, yeah, we need to go rescue her. So for the competition, Jerome and Mara were competing for who would have the best business project, and he kind of tries to sabotage her a little bit by eating all of her snack that she created. He does pay for it before it can be judged, and he gets her teammate Willow, who, mind you, used to have a crush on him, to help make the sauce for his snack behind Mara's back. And when she finds out, she tells him that he's not the person she thought he was, and that they should cool it for a while. But like, Mara, this is who Jerome has always been, sweetie. You knew this is what he was like. He might have a soft spot for you, but at his core, he's a con man, okay? You knew this. Victor took Amber back to Anubis' house to help jog her memory about where the parcel is, I guess. And Alfie presents Amber's creation since she's not there, so her dad can see it and see what all the hard work she's put in is. And it is a dress made of candy. So he goes and tells Mr. Sweet that this school is clearly not serving Amber, so she will be going to the fashion school. Joy and Fabian end up winning the competition with their ancient Egyptian snacks that they created. Okay, I think the dress was cooler, but whatever. Amber gives Victor back the parcel with the bracelet in it in order to save her friends because they are like heavily threatening them. And they bring her into Mr. Sweet's office and tell her that her dad wants her to go to fashion school, and they suggest that she do it for her friend's sake. Alfie, Patricia, and Fabian are listening in through the hole in the girls' bathroom that connects to Mr. Sweet's office, and they think that that Amber betrayed them. Victor announces that Amber has left the school and is currently traveling to America with her father to go to fashion school. Eddie has another vision that he's in this like old room that has like an open big stone tomb kind of thing. Mara, Joy, and Patricia have KT join their sisterhood pact. Alfie, Patricia, and Fabian get a text from an unknown number asking to meet them at the school. Jerome tries to apologize to Mara, but she says she still needs some space. Fabian, Patricia, and Alfie show up at the school, and they also see that Eddie and KT are there because they got the text too. And it turns out that Amber sent it, and she shows up, and they accuse her of betraying them, but she tells them what she saw in the secret room in the gatehouse, and that the package she gave Victor was a fake, and that she put fake clues in it to replace the instructions that were like old proverbs that KT had made for their project that was like things to go in a fortune cookie, basically. And she put one of Patricia's old bracelets in there and wrapped it all back up to make it seem like she hadn't opened it. And she tells them that they are going to need to work together, and that they will need a new leader, and they all nominate Eddie since he is the Osirian. And they have a cute little group hug to tell Amber goodbye. And her goodbye to Alfie was kind of sad. Like, I was getting a little misty-eyed. Also, Amber's like my favorite character. I don't even watch the show anymore after this. She's so funny. Whatever. We also see Miss Denby opening her laptop, and she sees that someone else has been on it, like the web page that was it Eddie and KT? They looked at it. Was still pulled up, that had her sister's had the other person's picture on it, and knows that someone must have found her secret identity. Like, Eddie, brother, you gotta learn how to clear your history when you're doing espionage. Like, what? That's like rule number 1. Mr. Sweet and Victor open the fake package Amber gave them and think that the proverbs are clues to where the actual instructions are, and that they must be somewhere in Anubis' house. Sabuna have a meeting and decide to go back to the gatehouse to look at more things. And Mr. Sweet finds a note on his computer that says, "Do you think Miss Denby might have had some work done? Maybe a face transplant," with the link to the website where he found the picture of the other lady. But he goes to the website, and the picture has now been changed and is now Miss Denby's picture. So clearly she took measures to protect herself after she found out someone was on her computer. Alfie and Patricia distract her while the other 3 go into the secret room to look for clues, and Fabian accidentally lets it slip that he's seen KT's key before, and she makes him admit that Patricia stole it because they thought she was working with Victor, and she gets mad and like comes towards him, and he backs into the sleeper guy, the man in the suit, and they like knock him over, but Eddie catches it before it hits the floor. Thank you, Eddie, for your fast reflexes. Fabian recognizes the face of the man, but they have to leave before he can say who it is, and they end up getting away. He later tells him that he thinks it is Robert Frobisher Smythe, which, if you'll recall, is the man who created Anubis' house. Eddie overhears Victor, Denby, and Mr. Sweet talking and gets caught standing outside the door, and he picks up an envelope Miss Denby dropped that is from a health clinic that says Catherine Denby. He doesn't notice this yet. He doesn't notice this, but I did. It said Catherine Denby instead of Harriet Denby, who Harriet is supposedly Miss Denby's first name. Mr. Sweet tells Eddie to cool it on his investigation into Miss Denby. Willow helps Jerome with a scheme to get Mr. Sweet out of his office so that he can do something in there I didn't write down, but KT tells the rest of Sabuna about her grandfather's mission, and they tell her that she's not gonna do it alone. They're gonna do it together. We're all in this together. They go back into the secret room in the gatehouse to check if the guy actually is Robert Frobisher Smythe, and they remove the glass so they can see him better, and the machine he's on starts going crazy, but they do get a clear view of his face and confirm that it is indeed Robert Frobisher Smythe. So Jerome is in Mr. Sweet's office, and he uses the intercom in there to call everyone into the, that's his why, okay, call everyone into the drama room, and he's giving away muffins with Mara's face on them, and has made a presentation about great women of history and includes Mara in it in order to apologize to her. But Jerome and Willow do indeed get in trouble for duping Mr. Sweet, and they have to clean the costume closet every day as a form of punishment, like detention kind of thing. So Sabuna goes down into the cellar and into the secret tunnels to see if they can find anything about the reawakening rituals in Robert Frobisher Smythe's old study that's down there with all the books and things. And they find a book about the Curse of Anubis that says only those with pure intent may wake the sleeping man, and if he is awoken by those with impure heart, he will be woken as in servitude to the underworld. So that's not good. They think that Mr. Sweet and Victor might not be impure of heart, but that if Miss Denby is an imposter, then she might be impure of heart. So if she is involved in the thing to awaken him, then he'll be evil. They hear Victor, Mr. Sweet, and Miss Denby outside in the cellar talking about the proverb about literature, and that it must be alluding to the study room that the students are currently in. They don't know this, but so Eddie comes up with the idea to whisper into the like air vent that's down there because it connects to his and Alfie's room, and because Alfie is up there all afraid of the possibility of zombies because he saw Robert Frobisher Smythe. And it works, and Alfie yells, and so Victor has them go up and see what the brats are up to before he can open the bookcase and go in to the study. And Alfie's up there with a water gun as protection for the zombies and sprays them all out of fear when they come out of the cellar. It's really great. And Miss Denby left her purse down there, and Eddie sees it and opens the letter he saw earlier that day and sees that it is indeed addressed to Caroline and that Harriet Denby is the patient. So Miss Denby heads back down there to get it. So Eddie goes back into the secret study with the purse and then into the tunnels, and he gets hit with the blinding booby trap, but he holds up something reflective from Miss Denby's purse, like a little mirror, and it stops it from blinding him. It like reflects it back on and like breaks it basically. And he follows the tunnel to try and find a way out while he can hear the three teachers in the study. And Victor finds a book called The Recipe for Life, written by Robert Frobisher Smythe, that says, seek the right ingredients to keep them well preserved to enable them to rise. And thinks that those are the steps to the ritual, and that they still need the words to actually awaken him. Eddie finds a lock that looks in the tunnels. He finds a lock that looks like it will open with KT's key, but he doesn't have it with him. The adults talk about the other proverb that says those who wish to sing will find a song, and he thinks that it is alluding to Robert Frobisher Smythe's ancient Egyptian music recording that he has on the phonograph things. And they leave, and Eddie gets out without being seen. But he goes to tell the rest of Sabuna about the letter and that Harriet Denby is a long-term patient at a mental care facility. And so they think that she escaped and is basically insane and trying to do crazy shit. I don't know. Eddie calls the clinic and finds out that Harriet is actually still there and has not escaped. And Sabuna minus Alfie goes to the clinic to visit this mystery woman. And Patricia gets stopped by Denby before she can leave with the other three and has her in the gatehouse for tea. And she finds out that she has her Miss Denby's bag and that Patricia tells her she found it and was coming to return it. So nice save, Patricia. The rest of Sabuna gets in to visit Harriet, and she recognizes KT and says that KT is Robert Frobisher Smythe's great-granddaughter. And she also tells them that her father was good friends with KT's grandpa and that Caroline is her sister, and she shows them a picture and tells them that she's adopted and that Caroline took her identity and had her locked away in this mental facility to take her role as keeper because she wants the glory, and then evil will be released when she does the ceremony because she is not pure of heart. Jerome and Willow are bonding a lot in detention. Meanwhile, also Miss Denby is questioning Patricia about where her friends are, and she lies and gets away with it by calling Eddie in front of her and kind of misleading him into lying about where they are. KT is really upset about the info that Harriet told them. Eddie tells them that he thinks something's wrong because Patricia was being polite. And Fabian's reaction is killing me. He's like, she was being polite?
Polite?
Video.
Yeah. Patricia.
Eddie thinks that Harriet is their answer because if she performs the ceremony, then there will be no evil, probably. Although, I don't know why they don't think that Victor's evil. Like, Jerome is telling Alfie that he had fun with Willow, but he gets interrupted by Mara, who tells him that she is ready to forgive him and be a boyfriend and girlfriend again. And he's like, oh. Eddie is trying to break Harriet out of the mental health place, and Miss Denby, shows up to visit her. So Eddie hides under the bed, and Harriet pretends like she's sleeping. But right before Miss Denby can look under the bed, Harriet wakes up screaming, and the nurse comes in and tells Miss Denby that she better leave. Harriet tells Eddie that she can't leave the hospital because no one will be able to protect her from Caroline. Eddie gets caught coming home after curfew and by Victor, and has the others all waiting down there for him, with Miss Denby, who ratted on the lie Patricia told about them being at a disco, and they get in trouble and are now on lockdown, and they can only leave to go to classes. Fabian researches Robert Frobisher Smythe and finds out that he was married twice and had a son with his first wife, who was born on the same day as KT's grandfather. Sabuna decides to try KT's key in the slot that Eddie found in the secret tunnels to see if it leads outside so that they can sneak out and go get Harriet since they're on lockdown. Joy comes into her room and sees all her stuff has been cleaned out, and it turns out that Willow is in there and did it, and Joy gets mad and yells at her. Joy does not like Willow. Victor listens to the phonographs, and there's only one that has music that actually has words, and he plays it for Mr. Sweet and Miss Denby and thinks that it must be the incantation for the ceremony, so they all learn how to sing it, basically. KT's key works, and it opens up into another secret room that turns out to be the crypt that was in Eddie's vision with the stone tomb thing. And they figure out that it's Robert's crypt based on an engraving on the tomb thing. And the door they came in through closes, and so they get trapped in there. Alfie goes down in after them, and they're able to slip the key out through the gate and have him unlock the door, and they are able to get out. The three adults, meanwhile, figure out that the last proverb about the treasure being worn with pride is referring to the bracelet, and Denby suggests that they practice the ceremony and use a stand-in for Robert, and suggests that they use Corbière. But Victor freaks out. It's like, not my bird. KT realizes that the engraving on the tomb is the wrong birth year for Robert. And Eddie remembers something from the book that says that the Book of the Dead was etched into the tomb and shows a picture of a tomb with symbols on it. So they think that there might be symbols on Robert's tomb that explain the secret message. Eddie overhears Denby telling Mr. Sweet that they need to do the ceremony that night, but he doesn't know that they're talking about the practice ceremony, which I don't know why they would think that the ceremony would work on any dead thing like Corbière. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. KT and Fabian figured out the symbols and therefore the incantation, and it's some Egyptian words. I don't know. It's like Jesse Hotep or something like that. I don't know. That's what it sounds like. Jerome and Willow are in the costume closet again, cleaning for detention, and the lights go out. And she asks him if it's over between him and Mara, and he tells her that it is. Liar. And then they kiss. Lying cheater. Jerome, I will kill you. Why did they ruin my other favorite character? They got rid of Amber, my first favorite, and now they're ruining Jerome. Can I have nothing? But I don't know what is up with this show, and it's incapability to have keep their couples together. They have them break up and be with other people all the time. It's just let them be single. It's okay. We don't need this much romance. Just have one solid couple, and I think people would be happy. Anyways, Jerome tells Alfie later that he's going to try and date both of them because he owes it to himself to keep his options open. What are you, on Love Island?
This week, a hot new bombshell enters the villa. Don't call me.
Fabian, KT, and Eddie show up to get Harriet, and she's not in her room, and none of her stuff is there. So they're like, uh-oh, what happened to her? Victor, Mr. Sweet, and Miss Denby practice the ceremony on Corbiere, and Denby notices that the bracelet says made in China on it and freaks out on Victor because clearly it's a fake. The real bracelet that belonged to the god of Anubis would not be made in China. So the nurse comes in to Harriet's room and tells them that Harriet left with a family member and gives them a letter that she left for them and says that they need to do the ceremony themselves because if they do it, he will wake up to be a good man because they have pure hearts.
Clear eyes, full hearts,
Pure
can't
hearts. Mr. Sweet asks Joy to organize something for Prospective Students Day to highlight the students' talent. Mr. Sweet also notices that Patricia is wearing the fake bracelet in an old picture and knows that something's up. And the students leave their room to see Victor searching the bedrooms looking for his bracelet, and he brazenly tells them that that's what he's looking for, like he's not even trying to hide it anymore. Mara plans to sing a song about Jerome for the talent show for Prospective Students Day, and Willow is going to read a poem about Jerome for it. So let's see how this pans out. Eddie has the bracelet and takes it with him to dinner with his dad so Victor won't find it in his room. And he tries to hide it under the Robert Frobisher Smythe shield thing because it has like a curtain under it that goes to the floor, but his dad comes in and sees him and he goes to like look under it, and Eddie tells him to stop because he hid his birthday present under there. So he's like, oh birthday present from me, from my son. Wow. And when Eddie gets back to Anubis' house, Victor has them empty their pockets, but Trudy calls him out for keeping them up past curfew, and so he stops. So Eddie gets away with it because I think he took the bracelet back from under there after he almost got caught by his dad. The next day, Sabuna goes to try and do the ceremony themselves while everyone is distracted by the Prospective Students Day, and Fabian realizes that the ceremony has to be done at night, so he suggests they move the tank man somewhere so they can do it later. Alfie suggests that they put it in the crypt, and he presses a button in the room and it opens to an elevator miraculously. So that is how they move Robert's body, and they get outside and get stopped by Trudy demanding to know what this big sheet covered thing is that they're moving across campus. But Fabian saves the day by saying that it's for Alfie's magic act that he's going to do for the talent show. Mara goes up to do her song, and Jerome messes with the soundboard during the parts where she says his name in the song so the people can't hear that the song is about him. And by people, I mean Willow. And then Willow does her poem, but before she can say his name at the end of it, he interrupts with his balloon animal making talent, whatever. Sabuna finally makes it into the crypt with Robert. Miss Denby goes to the gatehouse and realizes that the elevator isn't at the level that she left it at, and goes to check on Robert and sees that he is gone. And she goes to tell Victor and Mr. Sweet and stops the talent show so she can see who is there.
No! Who is there?
And who isn't there, and Patricia goes to warn the others that they are on their trail. Patricia and Alfie go back to cover for them, and Fabian, Eddie, and KT stay locked in the crypt to guard Robert. Since this plan didn't work, Victor announces a thorough search of the school and the grounds to see who's hiding Robert. Willow is moving into Amber's room, which means she is now Mara's roommate. So this is gonna go well, clearly. It finally gets dark out, so Sabuna can do the ritual. Denby accuses Victor and Mr. Sweet of stealing Robert to have all the glory for themselves. Patricia and Alfie are going down to the crypt to do the ceremony with the rest of them, and Miss Denby spots them. And Eddie puts the bracelet in the right spot in the tank thing. They like open a thing and put whatever, and they start the ritual, which is basically just them chanting the words that they figured out. And there's like lightning and electricity, and they try to see if Robert is awake, but it seems to not have worked. Jerome is starting to feel guilty for two-timing Mara, as you should. Denby brings Victor and Mr. Sweet to the crypt, but Alfie and Patricia hadn't made it there yet. So this was really confusing as far as the timeline goes, because when Miss Denby saw them, they were headed to the crypt. So how did she get Victor and Mr. Sweet and herself all there before they got there? So Patricia and Alfie were headed to the crypt, but then they are shown at Anubis' house talking about how they are now going to the crypt. So I don't know. Also, they mentioned that they can't go through the cellar and the tunnel entrance because Victor added new locks to the cellar door. And I was like, well, why can't they use Nina's locket to go through the kitchen entrance? But I think maybe only Eddie can use it, because in season 1, I think Nina was the only one who could use it sometimes. But since Eddie's the Osirian, maybe he can use it too. So, but I feel like other people used it. I don't know. Anyways, Victor starts trying to force his way into the crypt by like trying to break down the door. And Fabian puts a chain around it to reinforce it. I don't know, because they can hear them out there. And then Patricia and Alfie see the teachers trying to break in, and they go back to Anubis' house and pull the fire alarm as a distraction and to force, because they know Victor will have to return because he's the groundskeeper or whatever. So they plan to sneak out while they are getting there. So Mr. Sweet leaves to help the students, and Victor doesn't go, and he's like hesitant to go back to Anubis' house until he realizes that Corbière is in there and could be burnt. So Miss Denby also goes and stops Patricia and Alfie before they can sneak out and leave. And Patricia accidentally drops KT's key, and Victor takes it. Victor shows Miss Denby that he has her key and says, because he thinks that the key that she dropped is Miss Denby's key, and says that he will hold on to it from now on because clearly she can't be trusted with it. Fabian thinks that maybe the reason that the ritual didn't work was because he might have needed to be in the gatehouse for it to happen. Like maybe the location matters. Victor is sitting in a chair, standing guard at in the foyer of Anubis' house. And Patricia tries to break out, but decides to go into Victor's office and get the key when she sees that he's not in there. Alfie distracts Victor by knocking over the sarcophagus, and when Victor tries to return to his office, and Miss Denby realizes that she still has her key, so there must be a second key. And where did that one come from? Patricia sees that Victor is holding the key, so she goes to bed because she realizes she won't be able to get it out of Victor's office. Miss Denby takes her key to show to Victor, and they realize that they are actually different. They have different, one has a sun on it and one has a moon. Also, I have a note here that says, also, ew, why are Victor's fingernails so long? I'll insert a picture, but yeah, I was grossed out. Ew. I hate long fingernails, but especially on a man. Unless they're like painted and done nicely, but like, oh. And they realize that the keys actually connect, and the moon slides over the sun like an eclipse. So Denby takes the keys and goes back to the crypt to check for Robert. Jerome asks Patricia to switch rooms with Willow so that Willow and Mara won't talk and reveal that they are both dating Jerome. And in return, Patricia has him help get the key from Victor. Jerome tricks Willow into hugging Victor because Willow's very like whimsical and like so happy, and they're like, don't you think Victor needs a hug? And she's like, yeah, his aura is all wrong. So while Victor's distracted with this hug, Jerome swipes the key from his pocket. Miss Denby gets to the crypt, and around the same time Alfie does, and she sees the keyhole and unlocks the door, and Alfie sees her do this. And Fabian, Eddie, and Katie hide down there, and she sees Robert, and she also finds the papers on the floor that one of them dropped that detail the directions for the ceremony. So Good job, guys. So Miss Denby takes Robert and the instructions, so they basically did all the work for them. Alfie sees her leave and unlocks the crypt and gets the others out. And Victor thinks that they need to do the ceremony during the eclipse, since that's what the keys mimicked, and that there just so happens to be one coming up soon. Love how that happens. Mr. Sweet and Miss Denby orchestrate a school event for the eclipse, to have them all like watch it and participate in it, to trick them into like helping with the ritual. I don't know. And or like distracting them during it. And Fabian realizes that the directions were actually alluding to this ceremony being done on an eclipse. You couldn't have realized this sooner, Fabian. Come on, thought you were supposed to be smart. Okay, so the eclipse is like the next day. Funny how that works out. Patricia says all they need to do is stop the adults from successfully completing the ceremony during the eclipse, and they still have the bracelet, so they just need to hold on to it and not let them know that KT is the descendant, because they think that KT has to be involved in the ritual. But KT doesn't want her great-grandfather to just stay asleep. She wants him to be at peace. And Victor is tearing the school apart looking for this bracelet, and Eddie pulls it out in the middle of school, and his dad sees it and hears them talking about KT being the descendant. Alfie urges Jerome to break up with Willow because Alfie actually has a crush on her, even though his girlfriend what happened to Amber, Alfie? Her body's not even cold. Willow sits on Jerome's lap, and Mara walks in and sees it and confronts him about it, and he says she was just thanking him for his advice because he gave her advice on Alfie because she has a crush on Alfie, and she believes it. So Mr. Sweet comes up with an idea to get the bracelet and the descendant. So in class that day, he asks Katie to go to the drama room to get extra astronomy books, and the students are worried that they're trying to kidnap her because they've done that before. But while she's in there, Miss Denby asks her to borrow her phone, and so she texts Eddie help from KT's phone. And so when Eddie makes an excuse to leave class to go help her, Mr. Sweet makes him take his leather jacket off because it's against dress code. And when he gets there, he realizes KT isn't actually in trouble, and he realizes what happened, and he goes back to class, and all the students are out doing individual projects somewhere, and he checks his jacket and his bracelet. The bracelet is no longer in there. Mara tells Alfie that Willow has a crush on him because of what Jerome told her. And so he's excited about that because he has a crush on her too. KT decides to try and leave town so that they can't use her for the ceremony. So she and Trudy go to Mr. Sweet and tell him that she's really homesick, and they get him to let her leave. Miss Denby tells Joy and Jerome that they are failing history class, and that if they fail the class, they will lose their scholarship, and says that she can save their grades if they put their all into this eclipse project. And KT and Sabuna are concerned that Mr. Sweet agreed too quickly to let KT leave the school. Eddie goes to his dad's office to see what info they have on KT. And meanwhile, Mr. Sweet pulls Alfie and Patricia to go meet with Miss Denby and Joy and Jerome for the project at the gatehouse. Eddie ends up looking in Patricia's file, and he sees an old photo of 4 people. And he goes back to Fabian and KT and tells them that he found out that Joy, Jerome, Alfie, and Patricia are all there on the same scholarship, and it's called the Candy Foundation Fund, like sweet as in candy. And since Mr. Sweet is the seeker, he brought them all there on purpose. And in the photo, it's Robert Frobisher, the old photo that he found, it's Robert Frobisher Smythe And then it's Alfie, Jerome, and Patricia's one of their great grandparents. And they were all a part of Robert's expedition crew to Egypt, where he like stole all these artifacts. And so they are the descendants and are the ones that are needed for the ritual, which they thought was supposed to be KT, but no, they were wrong. So all the descendants arrive at the gatehouse, and Eddie and Fabian and KT see them because they figured it out as well. But they can't get in because the code has been changed. And Miss Denby is telling the descendants about a ceremony and has them start to practice it, and she takes their phones. And Alfie and Patricia aren't worried because they think that they can't do the ceremony without KT, so as long as she's not there, they won't be able to do it. So they're going with it, but they are being very rude to Miss Denby, which, as you should. The other three, Eddie, Fabian, and KT, go down to the hidden study to see if they can find any information. I'm not sure really what they are expecting to find, but whatever. I guess it's better than sitting on your hands. They do find an old film canister, and there's like a video on it that's from the expedition that their great-grandparents were on, and it's all of the great-grandparents, and it shows that the grandparents were the ones that stole something from the tomb, but Robert didn't know about it, and he wasn't actually the one that stole it, but he was the one who got cursed because I think he was like the leader, and he took the rap for them, and that's why the other 4 descendants are needed. And Joy sees Jerome making, get this, he's making a like score list between Mara and Willow because he can't keep this up for much longer, and he needs to like make a choice. But in order to make the choice, he's like scoring them on different things to see who's really the better girlfriend. Not a great look for you, Jerome. And Joy figures out what he's doing and that he's 2-timing them, and says that he is going to tell them before she does. Eddie says since they can't get to the bracelet or the descendants because they can't get into the gatehouse, they need to get to the adults and stop them from doing the ritual. So they plan to kind of kidnap the adults, or at least keep them from being able to get there to do the ceremony. Miss Denby invites the students to stay at the gatehouse for the night, and they're all like, okay. But Patricia gets her phone out of Miss Denby's bag after she goes in the other room, and she sees KT's text telling her that they are all the descendants, and she herds all of them out of there, but the door won't open because Miss Denby already locked up. So she basically kidnapped all of them. The next morning, Eddie lets the others know that he picked the padlock on the cellar door. Patricia, Alfie, Jerome, and Joy are still trapped in the gatehouse. Joy refuses to believe that Mrs. Denby is bad. She also sent an email from Jerome's computer to Willow and Mara explaining all of the lying and cheating that he's been doing. KT knocks on Miss Denby's door and lures her out by calling her Caroline and like letting her know that she knows her secret and threatening to tell the police, and then runs away. And so Miss Denby follows her. Fabian steals Corbière and leaves a note to lure Victor out. Eddie fakes an illness to get his dad distracted, and so like that he will have to take him to the hospital. KT leads Miss Denby to Anubis' house and tries to trap her in the cellar, but Miss Denby realizes what's happening and ends up pushing KT in and locks her into the cellar. Victor reads the note that Fabian left and runs off to go get Corbière. Eddie tells his dad that he might need to go to the hospital. Miss Denby is back at the gatehouse, and she brings in robes for the students to wear, and Joy is like finally realizing that I'm in this shit again because it feels a little bit all too familiar because of from the whole Chosen One thing she was part of season 1. And Miss Denby kind of makes a vague threat to their family members if they don't wear them, which I don't know why they have to wear the robes. That seems kind of silly. Victor shows up to the boys' locker room because that is where Corbière is supposedly being held. And Corbière is in there all like tangled up and stuff. And there's a note on him that says, "Gotcha." And while he's in there, Fabian locks him in with a broom through the door handle. Eddie is getting put on an ambulance, but his dad doesn't go with him. And as the ambulance is driving away, Mr. Sweet says, "When you've been in this job as long as I have, it's easy to spot a faker." So he knew that Eddie was faking illness and trying to get him away from the ceremony, I guess. And Fabian sees this, sees Eddie's ambulance leaving, and sees Mr. Sweet pull a robe out of his bag. And he also goes to check on Victor and sees that there is an open plank under the sink and no Victor in the boys' locker room. So he presumably got out through this hole that was under the plank. And no, this is a grown man. I'm gonna insert a picture of this space. I don't know if you can tell the size or the scale from this screenshot, but there's no way a grown man could fit there. And whatever. Sure. Okay. So the kids are really bad at kidnapping, which I guess is a good thing. I don't know. Eddie finds KT in the cellar, and he gets her out, and they go to find Fabian, and Miss Denby brings out a covered Robert to the students. And Mr. Sweet is trying to convince them to do the ceremony, and Victor comes in to scare them into it because they're kind of like, I don't know if I want to do all that. They're holding hands around the covered Robert, and they start to practice, and the kids try to run away, but only Jerome gets away, and he goes into the elevator, which is somehow controlled by this huge like wheel thing that Victor just so happens to be strong enough to stop. I don't believe it. And he starts turning the wheel the other way to make the elevator come back down. Sure, I'll believe that. What are you, Thor? Mr. Sweet gives them blindfolds to protect their eyes from the eclipse and says that there will be consequences if they don't. They uncover Robert while the kids are blindfolded, and because I guess they didn't want them to see what they were really up to. KT, Eddie, and Fabian show up at the gatehouse and try to get in because the cellar door is nailed shut from the inside, so they can't get in through there. Victor puts the bracelet in the compartment on the suit, and they all hold hands in a circle around Robert while they're chanting. Like, this is actually ridiculous. And meanwhile, Mara and Willow are giving their eclipse presentation, and Willow's computer is hooked up to a TV. And Eddie forces a vision outside the gatehouse so he can have a vision of what the gatehouse code is, and it actually works, and they're able to get in. And he has Fabian wait downstairs by the elevator while he and KT go upstairs, and Eddie grabs the bracelet out of Robert's suit while they're doing the chanting and throws it into the elevator and sends it down to Fabian to interrupt the ceremony, and the adults get all pissed and send all of the kids out. Get out! So they think that it worked, and that because Robert hasn't woken up, and the adults start like crying, like get a grip.
Robert!
Hasn't worked.
Robert!
And Jerome, now that he's released, goes to the drama room to hopefully stop Mara and Willow from seeing the email Joy sent. And no one's in there at this moment. I don't know where they went. I think they went to go watch the eclipse. And he deletes the email from Mara and Willow's computers since they somehow haven't seen the email yet. And Sabuna and co. get back to Anubis' house and celebrate their success and say the bracelet doesn't matter since there won't be an eclipse for like another 100 years. And KT is really KT is really upset because her grandfather is still in limbo and not at peace. And then this is like the end of the like midway point in the season, so it's kind of like a mid-season finale. And at the end of the episode, they like cut to Robert waking up, and the episode ends there in like a cliffhanger kind of thing for the next half of the season. So from there, we pick up with Eddie waking up and having a vision of himself hiding under his bed, and Robert Frobisher Smythe like looks under it and he screams and wakes up and tells Fabian that Robert is actually alive. Eddie and Fabian tell the others at breakfast that they didn't actually stop the ritual because Eddie has had his vision that he's still alive. Miss Denby's trying to quit her teaching job, and Victor says that they should just close the school because it only existed to bring the descendants together. And Mr. Sweet is like, but what about the children? Like, okay, you didn't care. I don't even want to hear it. Joy is still pestering Jerome to confess to Willow and Mara. Fabian, KT, and Eddie go into the secret room in the gatehouse and uncover Robert's suit to check and see if he's woken up, because they think that he is, and he's still in there and asleep. But as soon as they leave, he like wakes up and looks over at them, but they don't see it, obviously. Mr. Sweet announces to the class that Miss Denby has left due to vindictive actions taken by the students during the Eclipse project. Shut up. You're trying to raise a man from the dead. Shut up. Miss Denby goes to check on Robert and sees that he is awake, and he's like acting crazy. And when she suggests that they leave and get out of there, he tells her that they will be staying because that room is perfect for the portal and because he said so, and that as far as Miss Denby is concerned, his word is law. So he put an iron fist down on Miss Denby, which is interesting because she was doing the same thing to Victor. We can see the pecking order. Mr. Sweet and Victor talk to Sabuna, and he's being really unfair, like, y'all stole and ruined the Eclipse project and blah, blah, blah. Like, y'all were trying to raise the dead, and for what? Greed and glory? These kids are not the problem here. Hey, maybe let's take a look at The Man in the Mirror. Alexa, play Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson, please. Thank you. And he tells them they are all expelled. So Robert tells Denby that she must go to Anubis' house and retrieve the Book of Incantations from his study that he needs. Joy tricks Jerome into leaving the classroom so she can tell Willow and Mara that Jerome's been cheating on both of them, and shows them the comparison chart that is on his laptop as proof. And when he gets back to the classroom, they're acting like nothing happened, and he thinks that they don't know. I don't know if I wrote this, but the comparison chart, I'll tell you how he rated the girls. So he has Mara versus Willow, and the first point of his girlfriend comparison chart is how much they laugh at his jokes. He gave Mara a 6 and Willow a 7. How much they lend me money. He gave Mara a 4 and Willow a 3. How much they let me play video games. He gave Mara a 4 and Willow a 5. Number of chick flicks they watch. Mara an 8, Willow a 7. Snack making ability, and he gave them both a 7. I think when it all adds up, they are a tie. So yeah, really great. The others of Anubis' house are rallying together to start petitions and are protesting the other students' expulsion. And Miss Denby tells Mr. Sweet that he's an idiot for expelling them because now they have nothing to lose and are angry. And she also announces that she's staying at the school. So as the 5 expelled students are preparing to leave and they're like saying their goodbyes, Victor comes in and tells them that their expulsion has been lifted. And so they all cheer because they think that they're protesting did something. The 5 are trying to lie to the others about why they were expelled, and Joy is not buying it. Mara and Willow are going to come up with a revenge plan against Jerome. And Fabian sees Miss Denby leaving Anubis' house with a book, and he's like, that's interesting. And Robert is doing some kind of like secret ceremony in the secret room in the gatehouse, talking to the ruler of the underworld, saying that he has arisen to do his bidding and is telling the great devourer of souls to rise. And during this, Eddie is having like a nightmare vision of this ceremony. And so Eddie tells the others about this vision of Robert doing this summoning ceremony. So they think even more now that he is actually awake. Robert tells Denby that he was summoning his ruler, who is Amit, who he was instructed to summon upon awakening. An Amit is known as the Devourer, and is an ancient eater of souls, the original man-eater, if you will. And I looked her up and listened to this. This is this build. It's kind of iconic. She has the 4 quarters of a lion, which is like the shoulder arms, hind quarters of a hippopotamus, so the legs and butt of a hippo, and the head of a crocodile, which are all animals whose females are known to be like protective and to not put up with males' shit. So to be honest, I'm not seeing the problem here. Emmett kind of a baddie. Also, low-key, ancient Egyptian mythology is kind of lit. If anyone has any book recs that center around that, let me know, because I kind of want to learn more about all their gods, because they're kind of sick. Like a fantasy book set in this, with this lore, like a Percy Jackson, but like Egyptian. Kind of hot, kind of cool. So, has someone written it? I don't know. Anyways, Robert says that Amit has always wanted to enter the earthly realm. And Fabian realizes that Victor doesn't know that Denby stole the book from him. So he also probably doesn't know that Robert is awake. Robert tells Denby that Amit needs 5 human souls of sinners that are corrupted by greed or jealousy, spite, pride, and anger. And that is why there are 5 sarcophagi in that room. And that Emmett will devour their energy. So Robert asks her to get him files on all the students so that he can see which ones are most likely to be sinners. But, if we want to talk about greed, how about we start looking in the damn mirror again? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Mr. Sweet apologizes to Eddie for overreacting and expelling him to keep him from doing something in retaliation. Alfie sees Miss Denby sneaking into Mr. Sweet's office, so she's clearly up to something behind their backs. Willow and Mara put a plan in place to get back at Jerome by having Willow invite him to a date that night at 7, and then Mara also makes plans with him that night that she doesn't let him get out of, as a way to trap him and stress him out and make him have to figure out how to be at both places. Fabian gets Mr. Sweet out of his office, and KT lets it slip that it's empty and unlocked in front of Miss Denby to lure her into breaking in, so they can see what she's trying to find. And they have Patricia looking through the hole in the girls' bathroom to see what she's doing, and they see her stealing students' files. Patricia goes and purposely runs into her outside as she's leaving and has her drop the files to see what it is, and it's all of the students from Sabuna, their files, or Anubis house maybe, I can't remember. So Robert tells Miss Denby that the sinners have to be captured one by one, and at the alignment of the 2 realms, which is noon and midnight, and that the sinner, when he puts them in the sarcophagi, they must be consumed by their sin while they enter. So you have to get them all riled up when you put them in. Sabuna decides to plant cameras in the gatehouse to see what Miss Denby's up to. And Jerome that night is trying to juggle both dates, and Willow set up a picnic in her room, and Mara is constantly calling him while he's in there. So he pretends that it's his mom and goes to talk to her, and really just goes to Mara's room for their date. And they are enjoying watching him squirm, and Mara has him taste this really spicy salsa she made and really sour lemonade to mess with him. And Sabuna is watching the cameras that they put in Miss Denby's house, which is quite creepy. But we'll let it slide because Miss Denby is evil. And they hear like footsteps and people walking, but they know it can't be Miss Denby because they saw her leave. And they also hear someone like screaming for help. And then Alfie hears Mara, Joy, and Willow talking about their plans to get back at Jerome, and he gets caught listening to them, but they make him promise not to tell Jerome. They see Denby telling the person in the video, in the camera stream, to be quiet, and KT thinks that it's Robert that she's talking to, and that Denby is keeping him locked up because she refuses to believe that her grandpa is evil. But it's very clearly a woman's voice, so I don't know. So they break into the gatehouse to see what's up. It turns out to be Miss Denby's sister, the real Harriet, and she's being kept there, and she screams until she realizes that she recognizes Eddie because they visited her at the hospital thing. And they hear someone coming and they have to leave, and Miss Denby comes in and tells Harriet, and Harriet tells her that they are coming for me and they're coming for you. And Miss Denby's like, okay. And Harriet kind of like laughs, and it's looking kind of creepy. So good on you, Harriet. Get your lick back. Eddie and Fabian hear chanting in their room that night, and they go next door and see Jerome and Alfie sitting up in their beds, just like in the dark, saying something over and over again. It's just like gibberish.
You guys are.
And KT also wakes up and to Joy doing the same thing. And then Mara comes in the room and says that Patricia's doing that too. So they're like, okay. Eddie sees Robert come in to Anubis' house, and they hide under their beds, and Robert looks like he's going to like snatch one of them, but then Victor calls down asking who's making that racket, and Robert leaves before he can get anyone. So Sabuna goes back through the footage the next day from Miss Denby's house, and they see Robert leaving the gay house, and Fabian shows the recording he took of their chanting that night, and they figure out that it was all the descendants that were doing it. So Eddie and KT get out of art class to break into the gatehouse while Miss Denby is there covering for their art teacher who's out, because they know that the house will, like, she won't be in the house, because they want to talk to Harriet. And Harriet tells them that Robert is not who he used to be, and that he works for a different power now, and that their friends are talking and if their friends are talking in their sleep, that it's not really them, it's Robert's ancestors, because they made an oath when Robert was cursed to guide their descendants when the time came. And Harriet refuses to go with them because she says she's needed there. Patricia, Alfie, Joy, and Jerome's arms get kind of like possessed in art class, and they all are like forced to draw the same pattern. And Miss Denby takes them from them because she's like, this is weird. Joy tells Jerome that Mr. Sweet entered Jerome into a singing competition to mess with him, because Jerome supposedly hates singing and they're still on their revenge warpath. But he like agrees to it because there's a cash prize, and we all know Jerome loves some cash. Mara plants in Jerome's head that he needs to put on a big show in order to win the money, because based on who won last year and stuff, so they're really just trying to embarrass him. Fabian purposely lets it slip to Victor that Miss Denby stole the book from his office, because they realize that she's gone rogue and that Victor's not in on it anymore. So he goes to look in his office to see what's missing and realizes she took the book of Egyptian incantations. All of Sabuna are in detention with Miss Denby that afternoon, and Victor comes in and pulls her out, and Fabian uses this distraction to take pictures of the drawings from her bag. And Denby tells Victor that she didn't take the book from his office and that Fabian must be deceiving him. And he believes her. I don't know why. Fabian and Eddie are listening to the recording of Alfie and Jerome chanting, and Eddie comes up with the idea to play it in reverse to see if they're saying something but backwards. And they do that, and they discover that it says something. Katie sneaks into the gatehouse, and Fabian and Eddie see it on the cameras, and they see Frobisher there too, hiding from her. And she hears Denby coming in the elevator and runs out, and after Denby comes out, Robert gets mad at her because he almost had her. I guess he was going to try to capture KT while there, and Miss Denby interrupted him. Robert tells her that the children cannot know that he is awake, and Denby says that she has a way to keep the info secret, and she also lies to him about her sister and tells him that the noises he keeps hearing are her friend who is staying with her because they're going through a hard time. So Miss Denby enacts her plan, and she pretends to have lost a dear friend in front of KT and accidentally mentions laying flowers in a crypt to make KT think that Robert died. And she tells the rest of Sabuna, and they're like, KT, you are so freaking gullible. You cannot believe a word this woman says. But they plan to go check in the crypt later with KT to make sure. So it is time for Jerome's performance, and he is dressed as a cat and singing a song he wrote called Love Kitten. And during his performance, Mara and Willow are passing out papers that have a pro-con list of Jerome, and they are all checked off as cons except for Tall, which is his only pro. But it basically says he's a bad kisser, he's selfish, he's two-faced, a liar, and he has wig hair and rubbish jokes, and he snores and has big ears. And he finally figures out what's going on, and Mara and Willow finally confront him about the cheating, and they both break up with him. Sabuna is going into the crypt, and they have Patricia stay outside to keep watch. And inside, there's like just some lit candles that have been unsupervised. Yeah, that's really safe. And they're just like everywhere. And Robert is laying in the crypt, pretending to be dead. And Katie gets upset, but Eddie goes to see if he's alive, but Katie's like, don't touch him out of respect, and she like cries and runs out. But Eddie's there by himself after they leave, and he puts like his phone up against Robert's face to see if his breath check if he's actually dead, see if his breath like fogs up the phone screen. But he doesn't say anything until later, so that Robert and Denby don't know that they know that he's not actually dead. So he tells them later, and she's like, I can't believe he would do this to me. He's my great-grandpa. Like, girl, he's never met you. He woke up evil from an ancient Egyptian curse. What do you mean you can't believe he would do this to you? Huh? So Patricia and KT have a talk about Eddie, and Patricia reveals that she might still like him, even though she broke up with him. And KT says that she doesn't see him that way, and she will ask Eddie how he feels about Patricia and let her know what he says. So Sabuna lets it slip in front of Victor that they noticed a man hanging around the gatehouse that they think might be Miss Denby's boyfriend, to kind of drop hints that it's Robert. So he goes over to investigate and pretends that he's there to do some maintenance work, and he hears noises and makes her open the door to Harriet's room. So Miss Denby is forced to tell him the truth about her fake identity, and Robert shows up and dismisses Miss Denby so he can talk to Victor. KT tries to ask Eddie in a very roundabout way about Patricia, but she doesn't actually mention Patricia's name because I guess she doesn't want to like expose Patricia for still liking him. So she's like, if you had a friend and they told you they liked you and blah blah blah, and so he thinks that she's talking about herself liking him, and he doesn't see her like that, so he says that he only likes her as a friend. So KT's like, oh, he only likes Patricia as a friend, but really he was talking about KT. So KT goes and tells Patricia that she should try to make Eddie jealous with another guy to get him interested again, and suggests Jerome since he's single now. So Mara and Willow come up with another idea to mess with Jerome. Their plan is to have him fall in love with Joy and then have Joy break his heart so that he can get a taste of the medicine. And Mara's very for this. Willow seems to not care too much anymore. I mean, she was only dating him for I don't even know, a week. So she's like, whatever, I forgive and forget. But she's still gonna help if they need it. Victor rats Miss Denby out to Robert for lying about her identity, and he's like, honestly, I don't really care. He's like, finally, she's done something interesting. And then he invites Victor upstairs to talk further after he realizes that it's almost noon. So Patricia asks Jerome out, and he reluctantly agrees. It's really funny. So in the secret room in the gatehouse, Victor and Robert are there, and Victor suggests that they cut Denby out of the plan completely, and Robert gets him talking about his greediness and all these things that he wants, and he gets him all worked up and traps him in the sarcophagus for sinning. He's then let out and says, I am here to serve you, master. And Robert tells him to go collect sinners for him. So he's basically kind of possessed. His soul is trapped in the sarcophagus, and he's just a puppet basically for Robert. So Victor goes back to Anubis' house and runs into Eddie, Fabian, and KT and grabs Eddie to make him come with him. He pulls him into his office and tells him he's a disgrace to his father, and tells him that his father told all of the faculty that he doesn't consider him a son, and he's clearly trying to work him up and get him angry so he can be used as a sinner. Willow comes into the living room and tells everyone that she feels a really bad energy in the house and points right at the spot that Victor was standing. But Eddie in his office turns it back around on Victor and says, well, you would know all about that, don't you? Your dad thought you were a disappointment too. So his egging on isn't really working on Eddie. And Robert shows Denby what he did to Victor and says Victor's soul is stuck in the sarcophagus. Willow throws citrus oil on Fabian and KT as a cleansing ritual, and they keep doing it to Victor's office and force him out, and Willow does it to Victor, and he gets kind of distracted, and so Eddie can get out. Fabian puts all of the drawings together to create a bigger pattern in hopes it gives them a message or a clue or something. KT mentions Patricia's date in front of Eddie, and he seems to get a little upset. Victor finds the cameras that the kids hid in the gatehouse and says it's time to deal with Edison Miller. Jerome and Patricia have their date, and he starts talking all romantic to her in an effort to get her true intentions out, and he says it's fine, that she's just trying to make Eddie jealous because he's only on a date to prove a point to Mara. Alfie finally asks Willow out, and she says yes. Fabian notices that the drawings match up. The pattern matches a tile in the kitchen, and it starts glowing, so they use Nina's locket to open it, and it reveals a capsule with symbols on it, and it's one of those cipher combination lock things that you have to match up the right pattern in order to unlock it. Mara is really upset because she told Jerome she loved him and he was still seeing Willow, so Joy says that she finally agrees to trick him, so she starts flirting with Jerome. Victor and Denby plan to ambush Eddie that night while he is meeting with Patricia because she wants to tell him that she still has feelings for him. And after she goes down to meet him, Victor goes into Patricia's room and takes her phone to text Eddie, who then leaves the house and goes to the crypt. So the text must have said to meet her there instead. So now when she's down there, Patricia's down there, and Eddie never shows up, she thinks that he stood her up. KT comes in the foyer to check on Patricia. She tells her to call Eddie to see where he is, and Patricia realizes that she doesn't have her phone, so KT calls Patricia's phone for her, and they hear it ringing and realize that Victor is walking by, and the ringing is coming from his general area. And she's like, do you have my phone? And he tells her that he found it lying in the kitchen, but she wasn't even in there this evening. So meanwhile, Eddie's in the crypt and sets his phone down, and we see someone like steal it, and he gets locked into the crypt by himself with no phone. So Patricia tries calling Eddie, but obviously he can't answer. But she gets a text from him that Denby wrote, because she stole a phone, that says, checking out the school again, all cool. So Patricia now really thinks he stood her up, and Fabian thinks it's weird, that the text was weird, and that him standing her up isn't something that he would do. Victor says they will leave Eddie trapped until midday the next day because they want him to be the next sinner. They want him to like get upset for a while so he'll be easily provoked, because they want him to be the anger sin. Fabian also gets a text from Eddie, and the next morning, and it says, heading in early, fill you in later, to not, because they don't want their suspicions to be raised. Eddie gets a vision in the crypt of Robert and Denby trapping Patricia in one of the sarcophaguses, and he starts like frantically trying to get out. Fabian is trying to figure out what the symbols on the thing they found are, and there are 7 of them. And KT starts like listing things that there are 7 of that they could mean, and one of them is colors of the rainbow. And this leads Fabian to remember an old article he read about Robert Frobisher Smythe that said that Robert is a synthesate, which is someone who like mixes up their senses. So like he can see letters as symbols and colors, and like it's called like synesthesia, which I think is like you can like smell colors kind of thing. It's a real thing. But Fabian says that it's hereditary, so if Robert could do it, then KT might be able to do it. So they are going to try to do that. Joy tries a new tactic with Jerome, and she kind of brings up the idea that their hate might be disguising the fact that they are actually attracted to each other. But he doesn't really agree. Eddie finally breaks through the skylight that is in the crypt and is able to pull himself out of it and gets away just before Victor comes to check on him, and he realizes that Eddie is no longer there. So he goes to tell Denby that they need to get someone else before Robert finds out that they lost a sinner, and he suggests Patricia. Denby gives Eddie's phone to Mr. Sweet. Eddie tries to tell Patricia that he was trapped and what happened, and she doesn't believe him and starts arguing with him, so he kisses her to shut her up. Woo! Mara finds out through the website that they use to do their family trees that she is second in line to a lord's estate, and that the old woman who was first in line actually died, so she is now can inherit this lord's estate. And then Jerome starts being real apologetic once he realizes she might be inheriting some money, and this is like kind of part of her plan to be like have him get interested in her, be like no. So Eddie tells Sabuna that they can't let Patricia out of their sight because he saw her getting trapped in his vision. Fabian helps KT heighten her senses so she can see the order of the colors, and she is finally able to do it and puts them in the correct order on the relic. And it works, and they are able to open it, and inside it there is a paper with like a blueprint of Anubis house on it, and a note that says, when your friends are not your friends, the secret room is what you seek. When you reach a dead end, the time has come to dig deep. So they think there is a room under the cellar with something that Robert put in place in case he woke up evil. Victor comes up with the idea for the kids to participate in a special class to help their grades, where they fill out a form to like discuss their weaknesses and possible points of sinning. It's like a personality quiz kind of thing to see who's most likely to be a sinner. So Miss Denby gives them this quiz thing, and Fabian kind of questions it because the questions are really weird. Like, one of them is, if your girlfriend left without explanation, how would you react? With sadness, insecurity, bitterness, or with anger? And Miss Denby is like, well, it's to test your emotional intelligence. But like, it's a very targeted question because that's literally what Nina did. Miss Denby makes a comment to Patricia about Eddie's roaming eye to put thoughts of jealousy in her head to have her start sinning. They head to the cellar that night to look for a secret passage that could be under the cellar. But the floor is like solid concrete, so they go back to the drawing board. Mara makes a really mean comment to Jerome when he offers to help her with her meeting with a lawyer to talk about the estate, and she says, I'm related to a lord and you're the son of a thief. You are the last person I would want help from. Shit, Mara, that's ice cold. And everybody at the breakfast table is kind of like shocked into silence, and Joy goes, Mara, and she follows Jerome to go check on him after he leaves the table, and they have a little moment. Eddie notices that there is a mark on the house blueprints that indicates might indicate that the secret room is beside the cellar, not under it. And Mara signs papers for her inheritance with the lawyer, and it turns out to be a dog. The only thing she inherited was a dog, because the Lord was penniless at the end, and that is all he owned. So now Mara has a dog. Sabuna searches the cellar again to find a room next to it now, and they only run into a brick wall that they think they might have to remove all the bricks in order to get through the wall. Miss Denby is writing a fake letter addressed to Eddie to make like a love letter to make Patricia jealous, and she like pretends to find it on the ground in the classroom and gives it to Eddie. Patricia reads it and gets jealous. And there is a new student at school named Benji who's joining the class on exchange, and he knows Eddie, and they are like rivals from before, and they have beef. And it kind of seems like they just brought him to school to make Eddie angry. I don't know how they did that so fast, but whatever. And Miss Denby also sends an online message pretending to be the person who sent Eddie the letter, and asks him to meet up. And yeah, that night Sabuna goes back down to the cellar and are able to dig out exactly one brick. And through the brick, they can see that there is another room on the other side of the wall that has a bunch of things in it. They can't really tell. It's dark in there. And Eddie finds an old gas tank in the cellar and tries to use it to like hit the bricks to knock more down at a time because it's going to take forever to get them all out. But they are being very loud. That is a very loud noise. And so Victor hears it and comes down there, but they get out through the other door in time before he can see, and they put the brick back in place so that Victor can't tell what happened. But as he leaves, he tracks like ashy footprints up the stairs, but doesn't notice yet. Miss Denby forgets to lock Harriet's door and leaves the key sitting outside, and Harriet takes the key. Sabuna comes up with an idea to remove the bricks one by one and then put them back, like glue them all together and put them back in one big spot piece, so that every night they can just remove the whole piece and they can disguise that they are doing that, so Victor won't be able to see. Miss Denby is like making up activities in class to have Benji spend time with Patricia to make Eddie jealous or something, I don't know, or angry. Victor notices that he tracked the sooty footprints from the cellar after he went down there that night, so he goes back down to see where it came from and sees the loose brick in the fireplace and pulls it out and sees the room on the other side. Eddie is trying to rally the house to win the dodgeball tournament that the houses are competing in against each other because he wants to beat Benji's team. And he also set up a little date for him and Patricia. But he gets a phone call from his mom during it, and he's kind of like being secretive about it. So Patricia, again, starts feeling jealous. Harriet leaves the gatehouse. Go Queen. Jerome asks Joy out on a date, and she agrees after he agrees to watch Mara's dog with her as the date because she had already told Mara she would do that. Victor tells Robert about the room he found, and he remembers it. And when Victor asks what's in there, he says, me? Whatever that means. And Robert tells him that there is a booby trap that he built into the wall in the brick fireplace area thing that will stop people who try to get into the extra room. Then that Victor will have to set it, activate it with a mechanism, and that it takes lives. So, and Victor is again possessed, so he doesn't care about the kids' lives at this point. Willow and Alfie have a date where they're like playing card games, and she asks about what he gets up to with his little gang. Victor sets up the mechanism, the booby trap, and it's like this like guillotine kind of thing that like just comes out of the ceiling, like this big sharp thing that would kill someone. And it is activated when like someone like goes over a certain part of the floor. KT makes a poster of the bricks to cover the ones that they remove so no one will notice when they go down there. And when they go down there that night, they see that someone sealed the bricks they had removed up. And Eddie almost gets his arm cut off by the guillotine thing, but Fabian pulls him out of the way just in time. My first note for this next episode says, I miss Amber. So Sabuna leaves the basement and decides to try to get around the booby trap later, but the kids don't think that Victor was the one that set the booby trap because he has never wanted to take their lives before, but they don't know that he's not himself. And Miss Denby finally realizes that Harriet is gone, and it is also time for the dodgeball tournament. Yay. So Harriet shows up at Anubis' house and hides, and Miss Denby also shows up shortly after to tell Victor that Harriet was missing. Also, I forgot to mention this, but Miss Denby had been like putting stuff in Harriet's soup to make her like lethargic and not, if she did get out, she wouldn't make it very far kind of thing. So she's not too worried, but she's like, we still need to get her back because she could ruin everything. KT leaves the dodgeball tournament to go check the blueprints one more time while there's a break. And while she's in Anubis' house, she hears noises and goes to check it out and sees Harriet getting food out of the fridge. And Harriet gets scared and freaks out and locks KT in the entryway that's in like the foyer by the front door of Anubis' house in her panic and leaves. Eddie is still beefing with Benji, and he and Patricia are kind of arguing because he's jealous that she doesn't hate Benji, like she's being nice to him. KT uses her time locked in the closet to go over the blueprints again, and she realizes that the secret room is probably underneath the closet she's in, most likely. So she uses a crowbar that just so happens to be there to pull up one of the wooden floor planks, but she doesn't see anything under it. It's just more like wooden thing under it. Victor and Miss Denby tell Robert that Harriet is missing and how collecting the next sinner is taking longer than they anticipated, and he gets mad and puts Victor in charge of it since Miss Denby is failing. And Robert tells Miss Denby to find and dispose of her sister because she is becoming a nuisance. Fabian ends up saving the day at dodgeball, and they beat Benji's team, and even though Eddie initially didn't put Fabian on the team and only had him as the mascot because he's not a very athletic guy, KT is still in the closet, and she lifts up more floorboards and still can't find anything, but she stands up on the platform that's like underneath the floorboards that she had already removed, and the floor falls through. So we see KT like passed out on the floor, on the in the room that is underneath where she fell through. And the rest of Sabuna is looking for her when they get home. And they notice that her key is on the ground in the foyer that she must have dropped. Sabuna checks the crypt for her, and Eddie says he's going to check the gatehouse. And Harriet ends up running into Mr. Sweet. And remember, he's not in the loop of everything of what's going on, so he doesn't know who this woman is. But she freaks out again and runs away, but he goes after her to try and help because he can clearly see that she's not doing well. Joy and Jerome have their dog care date, and they actually seem to be getting on very well, and they bond over their weird relationships with their dads, because remember, Joy's dad basically kidnapped her into being a sacrifice for a secret society. Mr. Sweet finally catches up to Harriet, and she calms down a little bit, and she talks to him about evil, and she tells him her name is Harriet Denby, and he says he thinks he can actually help her, so she goes with him. Victor tells Denby that they need to use brute force and just take one of the sinners. Like, it's enough of these games. Sabuna is in the gatehouse, and they hide in the elevator because Victor and Miss Denby are there as well, and Mr. Sweet also showed up with Harriet to return her to Miss Denby. And Miss Denby makes up some lies about Harriet being crazy and that she needs care, so he leaves Harriet with her. Sabuna makes it out without being seen, and they still have not found KT. They decide to use Mara's dog to sniff out KT, and he leads them to the foyer, but they run into Victor, and he takes the dog because they are obviously not allowed to have pets at Anubis' house. KT finally wakes up and in the secret room, and there's a bunch of like old random stuff in there, and she opens a curtain to see a body-like figure, and she like screams in fear, which wakes up Eddie and Fabian, and they finally find her and get her out with a ladder. And Victor hears noises and goes down and sees them and sends them to bed. Sabuna goes back down into the new secret room the next day, and the thing that KT saw that she thought was a person turns out to be a fake Frobisher Smythe guy, like life-size doll kind of thing. And a voice recording that he made starts playing that says, "Stop, heed this message. If I have awoken and am under the control of the god Amit, herein you will find the information necessary to reverse my betrayal. Do not confront me, and please forgive me for my actions." They take some of the books down there and leave because they have to get to class. So they read the information that they took, and they learn about the goddess Amit and learn that she is known as the Eater of Hearts, and she ate the hearts of the impure, but she became angry with the god Anubis and saw herself as his equal and wanted more than just the hearts of the dead, and that her dark ambition was to cross into the human realm and claim the hearts of the living. And it is said that if she ever succeeds, it would make her power equal to that of Osiris, who is the god of the underworld. And they learn that in order to cross over, she has to claim 5 souls of human sinners, and it includes, in the book, there is a picture of the room in the gatehouse with the 5 sarcophagi, so they put together that is what Robert is trying to do. Miss Denby gives Patricia Eddie's laptop, even though Eddie literally had just walked by her. I don't know why Patricia doesn't think, why doesn't she just give this to Eddie? He's right there. And Miss Denby tells her, she's like, I didn't mean to look, but it was open and I saw, it isn't my place to say. Like, clearly making it seem like she saw something bad that Patricia should look into. So of course, Patricia opens it and sees that his messages that he supposedly sent to the girl that sent him the love letter in class, and it's talking about wanting to meet up and whatnot, and so Patricia starts crying. Benji talks to Eddie, and Eddie realizes that Benji was actually jealous of him and that they have a bit of a reckoning and apologize to each other. And Patricia gives Eddie his laptop back and is crying and calls him a creep and says she saw the messages and tells him to leave her alone. And he tries to tell her that he didn't send them, but she doesn't believe him. Sabuna tries to use the phonograph that's in the secret room, but the power source is old and eroded, so they need to find a replacement part. Joy steals the dog back from Victor and called Mara's parents to get them to come pick up the dog because he's not safe in Anubis' house with Victor. We then see a hooded figure go into the secret room, pick up the phonograph, and smash it on the floor. The person turns toward the camera and their eyes flash red, but we can't see who the person is. We just see a dark silhouetted figure. But it seems like a younger person. We saw Robert's eyes flash red before, but I don't think I was like, this is not Robert. This is a younger person. So there's a mole. Fabian wakes with a start because he hears a crashing noise, and he wakes Eddie up, and they wake the rest of Sabuna up to go investigate, and they go down into the secret room and see that the phonograph has been smashed to pieces, and they haven't a clue on who could have done it because no one else knows about the room. But are y'all forgetting that Robert literally created that room? Use your brain. Eddie and Patricia seem to have rekindled, and she believes him about not sending those messages and says whoever it is that did it, she will put up a fight for him. I don't know. Seems like a quick forgiveness for my girl Patricia. If I know anything about my girl Patricia, I know she can hold a grudge. So this immediately raised a red flag for me. Fabian thinks he can mend the phonograph, and they all say they are gonna try their best not to sin so they can't be taken. Victor and Miss Denby are fighting in the school because he was trying to trap Alfie after he stole a chocolate cake so he would be a greed center. I don't know. And she stopped him so they don't get caught. And Mr. Sweet finds them fighting, and all the students are listening in, but they lied to him about what they were arguing about because they still don't want him in on it, I guess. Mara and Joy are in charge of writing the school play, and Mara thinks that they should write a play based on Jerome and his two-timing ways in order to embarrass him. Girl, give it up. Let's move on now. I think we've done enough. I get it, but it comes to a point where it's getting a little bit embarrassing. And so Joy tells Jerome that he can be the director. Alfie and Eddie steal the Frobisher replica from the secret room and bring it to Fabian to help him. Wait, what? The guy. I don't know why they think this fake Frobisher Smythe is going to help him, but anyways, Eddie touches a phonograph part and has another vision where he sees the person destroying the phonograph, but he can't see their face. And Robert is there and tells him that it was one of his friends and that he is a viper in his midst. So someone in the Sabuna circle has been possessed. Victor is trying to find evidence of the chocolate cake thief so he can bring Alfie to detention with Miss Denby to trap him there, so he conducts a room search. Sabuna has to hide the fake Frobisher doll thing, and they're all kind of having trouble trusting each other because they know that one of them could be evil. Victor doesn't find any evidence of the cake, but he still tries to pin it on Alfie with detention for his gluttonous ways, but Trudy steps in and stops him. Eddie and Patricia think whoever was sending the fake love messages could be the traitor, and Patricia mentions that she saw KT using his laptop and that they should keep an eye on her. Patricia then walks in on Fabian in the girls' bathroom looking through her makeup bag and accuses him of being a traitor, but then, bear with me, uses her powder makeup to get a fingerprint from all of the Sabuna people, and he somehow transfers those to a fingerprint analysis website that matches the fingerprint from the phonograph piece, I guess, on his computer. I don't know if any of you've seen Criminal Minds, but when Garcia goes all I'm hacking the mainframe. You know what I'm saying? It's like that level of like unrealistic stuff. Like, in what world could you actually do this? But it finds a match, and it turns out to match with KT's fingerprint. So they think that KT is the traitor. So they all kind of turn against her. And we then see Robert, Victor, and Miss Denby welcoming a new member into the group. A new sinner has been turned, presumably. And it turns out to be Patricia. And this makes sense because I did flag that it was weird that she forgave Eddie so quick. So I'm assuming Miss Denby like captured her after she like ran off crying after seeing the messages. Miss Denby then lures Willow to the gatehouse under the guise of an audition for the school play, and she's trying to like upset her and make her angry so that she can be used as the sinner, but it's not working because Willow doesn't really give up. Sabuna is icing KT out and she's really upset. Robert comes out to try and upset Willow too and is like yelling at her and things like that. And Joy is actually starting to like Jerome, even though it's supposed to be a con, and he likes her too. But Mara still thinks that Joy is playing him. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Alfie is starting to wonder where Willow is, and he can't get in contact with her, but Patricia tells him that she's probably fine. And Willow, meanwhile, is like not reacting to any of Robert's tactics to scare her, but he decides to try and trap her anyways. And Alfie goes to the gatehouse to look for Willow, and he sees her with Robert and distracts him and has him run down after him, but goes up in the elevator and gets Willow out, but drops a pen that has his name on it in the process that he used to like distract him. Make a noise to distract him, and he gets Willow out though. Joy tells Jerome that she doesn't trust him because he gave her like the same chat up that he gave, Mara and Willow and stuff, but they end up having a moment during the play rehearsals while saying lines that are like a little too real, and Jerome ends up kissing her, and it's like an intense kind of kiss, and Mara gets upset because that's not in the script, but she's like low-key. So Joy goes to talk to her and apologize, but Mara tells her that she was faking it because she wanted Jerome to think that she was upset. But she's like actually happy that the plan is working out so well and that she's tricking Jerome into liking her, and tells her that she did great. So Mara, you've gone cuckoo. Robert knows that the kids made it into the secret room and gets Miss Denby to do something about it. Patricia apologizes to KT and tells her that she knows who the real traitor is and that she just needs to come with her to see who it is. Jerome realizes that the play is about him. Is this play about us? But tells Joy that it's fine because maybe this will finally give Mara the closure that she needs and will allow Joy to be happy with him after that. Patricia brought KT to the gatehouse and shows her Alfie's pen that she found and makes her think that he's the traitor because why else would his pen be there? And she's trying to upset her, KT, I think, and Patricia's eyes glow at her, and she tries to push her into the room that Harriet is staying in, but Harriet actually jumps out and grabs KT and runs, and they get out of there, and Robert gets mad at Miss Denby for her sister, because remember, Harriet got her key back. Robert gets mad at Miss Denby for her sister being there, and Harriet and KT get back to Anubis' house, and Miss Denby and Victor show up to look for them. KT hides Harriet in the secret room, and Harriet starts talking about all of the stuff she knows about Amit and things she's learned from Robert's readings, and she mentions the red eyes and the sinners, and she learns that Patricia isn't Patricia anymore, and Patricia goes crying to Eddie, Fabian, and Alfie and tells them that KT dragged her to the gatehouse and told her she was going to give her to her great grandpa to try to make it seem like KT's the traitor. But KT shows up and accuses Patricia of being the sinner and says that she's lying and tells them about Frobisher making fake people and tells them that Harriet told her all of it and gets them to come with her, but Patricia refuses. So after they leave, Patricia calls Denby and tells her where Harriet is hiding because KT let it slip where she was. Harriet finds plans of the staff of Osiris, thinks that that is what they need to make in order to stop the ceremony, I think. Denby has the mental hospital workers come and take Harriet away. And when Katie and the others get down to the secret room and Harriet isn't there, they think that she lied to them and brought them down there to trap them. Rip KT. Eddie has KT give him her key because they don't trust her anymore, and they lock her in her bedroom so she can't work against them and then hide the key. Patricia stays with KT to keep watch of her, and the next day they realize that the phonograph has miraculously been fixed, and Patricia convinces them that the house fixed it because it always helps them. So they listen to the recording, the phonograph recording, and it says, "If you are listening to this, then the unthinkable has happened. I have returned from my sleep and I am not myself. If I am allowed to go about my business uninterrupted, there will be the most unbearable consequences for the entire world. Locate the artifact. When assembled, it will be one complete object. This object is all you require to stop me. You should already be in possession of these artifacts. I have given instructions to my expedition party to pass on each successive generation. If you are their descendants, you already know this. This is your only hope and mine." So Alfie and Patricia are like, "I don't know what artifact they're referring to. My parents didn't tell me shit." KT convinces Willow to let her out of Patricia's room, and they go to play practice. And they are practicing, and Jerome is standing in for the male lead, and he has to sing a lullaby, but he doesn't really know any, so he just starts singing one that his parents made up. But Alfie and Patricia start singing along with him, but some lines are kind of different. So Fabian thinks that the song lyrics will lead them to the location of the artifacts, because what a coincidence that these three descendants know the same song that no one else knows, right? So one of the lines says, "In the parlor, the lines will lead, the lodge's height are hot indeed." So they go look in the parlor of Anubis' house, and they look at the globe. There's a globe in there. And they look at the lines of latitude and where it's lined up, and it opens to reveal an artifact. And Patricia sneaks out while they're distracted with this and tells Victor, and Eddie sees her talking to him, and he confronts her about it. And she claims that she was distracting him so he didn't walk in on them waving around an artifact, and he believes her. That's his girl. He trusts her. Robert is fed up with his little puppets because they're not bringing him any sinners, and says that he needs to go out on his own and do it himself. Alfie is singing the nursery rhyme in Anubis' house, and Willow comes in and starts singing it too and says, "There's just one thing you'll need. In the place of rest you will succeed." And she says that her grandfather taught it to her. So she's a descendant too? Something comes in the mail to Anubis' house from America for KT, and Patricia takes it before she can see it. Alfie and Fabian have Joy help them do Willow's family tree to see who of the expedition she's related to, and Joy realizes that Willow's great-grandmother's brother is Joy's great-grandfather. So Willow's great-grandmother and Joy's great-grandfather are siblings, so they're like some sort of cousins or something. Once removed, twice removed, something. Who knows? And Willow is just tickled to death that her and Joy are related. Mr. Sweet shows up to Victor and Miss Denby having tea, and he kind of gets kind of jealous of them leaving him out. So they're like, "Oh, you're right. Why don't you come to the gatehouse for lunch? Because we remember what happens at lunchtime, right?" So Anubis students are gathered in the living room doing tryouts for the female lead of the play because KT quit because everyone was icing her out. And Robert shows up and is kind of skulking around, and he overhears Mara being nasty to Jerome, so he kind of locks on to her. And he also runs into Trudy, and they have tea together, and he invites her to come see some stuff from his travels, but she says not right now because she's got responsibility there. So he's trying to capture just about anyone he can. The next morning, Trudy mentions that she met a tall, dark stranger who used to go to the school there, and that his name was Robert Smith. So the students put together who it actually was, and they're like, uh-oh, he's escalating. KT tells Victor that she's leaving and makes sure that she hasn't told anyone, and has her go in her room to allow him to make the arrangements, and he locks her in the room. Fabian and Eddie figure out the place of rest referred to in the song is the crypt, and Patricia comes up and gets mad at them for talking about the artifacts without her, and her eyes glow red because she gets angry, and Fabian sees it, but he doesn't say anything. But he runs off and finds KT and unlocks her room, but she isn't there. But he does see the package that Patricia hid under her bed. And Victor comes in and tells him that KT decided to leave the school and that it appears she's already done so. So Eddie, Alfie, and Patricia go into the crypt to look for the artifact, and they find it like stuck into the cement of the crypt and pull it out. Kind of anticlimactic, but whatever. Fabian opens KT's package, and there's a note in it that says, "The sinners walk among you," and there's like a flash drive kind of thing that has pictures on it of a drawing of someone with glowing red eyes, and he realizes that Patricia is a sinner because he saw the eyes glow. As the other three are coming out of the cellar, Victor catches them, and Robert then comes into Fabian's room, and he's like acting out of breath, and like he's like really struggling to breathe, and he's like dying kind of. And Fabian freaks and kind of backs into a corner. Is like, no, please don't hurt me. Robert tells him that he's sick, and Fabian calls KT on his phone, and so she can hear what's going on. And then Fabian leaves the room, but comes back to listen outside the door to make sure Robert isn't actually there to like hurt him. Victor tries to take the three he caught coming out of the cellar to the gatehouse, but Trudy stops him and tells him to let them go do the play that they've been working so hard on. Mr. Sweet comes into school, and he's acting very weird and mean, so clearly his soul has been taken. Robert tells Fabian that he needs his help, and that he's been looking for someone to trust, and that he's too weak, but that they can fight it if he helps, and that they must complete his work. He says he needs the tank and that it will restore him, and asks him to do the right thing and trust him. And Fabian helps him back to the gatehouse, and he tells him that it's part of the reversal of the curse, and that before he was put to sleep, he returned to Egypt, where he studied the ancient worship of Mat, the goddess of justice, and she was the only one who could undo Amit's evil works. So he devised a ritual in her name to save his soul, but without Amit's curse, the years are catching up with him, so his body is failing, but there's still so much to do to ensure Amit stays locked in the underworld. Not sure why Fabian is believing this. Why we think he's suddenly not evil anymore, don't know. KT comes to tell Eddie that she thinks something happened to Fabian and that he's with Robert, but Patricia says she's lying and just trying to lure him to the gatehouse, and gets Eddie to be on her side. Robert asks Fabian if he could continue his work for him, and Fabian says he would be proud to do that because he's always admired his work. So he gives Robert ideas on how to fix his tank suit and starts to reveal his true colors, and says that Fabian lacks ambition and seems easily distracted, and that his obsession with minutiae, which means like small trivial details, distracts him from the bigger picture. And that's when Patricia was captured, and he missed it. He then stops his little sick act, and Mr. Sweet comes in, and his eyes glow red, and they reveal the sarcophagi with the souls in them, and put Fabian in for like being prideful, I guess, because they had him like get all prideful about being the one chosen to help with the Egyptian stuff. Joy changes the ending of the play to have the character stay with Jerome's character, and Mara gets upset because she thinks Joy's going back on her plan. Eddie realizes that Patricia is actually the one who is the traitor and not KT, and him and Alfie leave the play while Patricia's busy acting in it. Mara asks Joy to dump Jerome before the end of the play for maximum humiliation, and Joy says that she wants to back out of this plan, but Mara says he deserves it because otherwise he'll never learn to not treat girls like this, and Jerome overhears them talking. Also, can I just say that Joy and Jerome are the best actors on this show? Like, this scene, Joy, you can like see the inner conflict play out on Joy's face very well. Like, she ate that up. Eddie finds KT and says he saw Patricia's eyes and knows she's the traitor. Patricia gets Alfie to come with her to look for Eddie and takes him to the gatehouse, but Eddie shows up and swerves them. And during the play, Jerome kind of goes off script while acting across from Joy, and he's like choking up while talking, and he's getting really emotional because he's hurt by what he overheard. He actually liked Joy. KT finds the package in Fabian's room that was supposed to be delivered to her and reads the note that says the sinners walk among you, and realizes something and runs off to find Fabian. And then we see Fabian coming out of the sarcophagus and says he serves Amit and Mr. Frobisher, and his eyes glow, so he has been lost. And he finds KT in the school and has her come with him so that they can be safe because Frobisher is coming for them. And he has them hide in the bathroom at school. And Joy tries to talk to Jerome, but he's ignoring her. And Mara is pissed that Jerome ruined their big gotcha moment by dumping Joy, because he kind of like dumped her in his like monologue of the play. And Fabian is like having an emotional conversation with KT, and then every time he looks away from her, he does this stupid little evil smirk. Just in case you guys forgot, he's evil. And Joy tries to talk to Jerome again, and he tells her why he dumped her, because he found out that she was scheming with Mara to make him look like a fool. KT says that her grandpa's package said that they will find what they need in the gatehouse, so they should go and look while everyone is out looking for them, but they need to get the package first. Eddie is trying to keep Patricia busy by spending one-on-one time with her and getting her to remember the nursery rhyme. Eddie remembers that Patricia has a twin sister who also probably was taught the nursery rhyme. So he comes up with a plan to get it from her instead, because Patricia actually doesn't remember it. At first I thought she was lying because she doesn't want them to find the next artifact because she's evil, but she actually doesn't remember. So Robert, Victor, and Miss Denby decide to throw the students a party to celebrate the end of the play to distract them. I think they had asked for like a post-play celebration, but they were denied, but I don't know, whatever. KT and Fabian run into Joy crying in the hallway, and she asks Fabian for a boy's perspective about Jerome and how he dumped her, and he like hugs her and whispers to her, by the way, so mean, if he's dumped you, it's because he can't stand you, and all you're whining just like the rest of us. Just be grateful that anyone was stupid enough to date you at all. Like, bro. And he's like whispering it into her ear, and KT's there too, but she's like standing off and can't hear, so she still doesn't know that Fabian's evil. Denby and Victor come in and tell everyone to gather and that the party starts now. Alfie sees Joy upset in the hall, and she tells him that Fabian said some really nasty things to her, and Alfie realizes that Fabian must be evil now too and goes after him and KT. And he finds them walking towards the gatehouse and yells at KT to get away from him, but Fabian says that he just saw Alfie with red eyes and has them run and hide in the crypt from him. And so Alfie goes in after them, and they both try to convince her that the other is lying, and he tries to tell her what he said to Joy, but she says she was there and that Fabian didn't say anything to her. And Fabian convinces KT to do what her grandfather's parcel said to do and go to the gatehouse, and she leaves while Alfie and Fabian are fighting. Eddie snags Patricia's laptop to video call with Piper, her twin, and asks her about the nursery rhyme. And Piper says that Patricia used to cover her ears when they would sing it, so she doesn't remember it. That's why she doesn't know it. Okay, if things look a little different, it's because it's a couple of days later. I put my outfit back on, but I lost like the last 15 minutes of footage. Like I didn't realize my phone had died while recording until I was just sitting here talking to nothing for like 15 minutes. So that's a little embarrassing. So I'm redoing the last like couple episodes. So where were we? So I think we left off. Eddie had stolen Patricia's laptop because he wanted to video call Piper behind her back so he could figure out what the song was, the nursery rhyme part that Patricia couldn't remember. And we find out from her that it says, "In the summer house beneath the weeds." That's her clue. And while he's on the call with her, Patricia comes in and sees, and he like tries to close his laptop and hide the fact that he was talking to Piper on there, but Patricia makes him open it back up, and Piper's still there, and they make up that they were planning like a secret surprise for Patricia, which is the story that Eddie sold Piper. So anyways, it is now time for the post-play party, and it is lame. These teachers do not know how to throw a party. No one wants to be there. Everyone's just kind of standing there awkwardly. And Miss Denby is like trying to get them all to dance and get into it, but it's just not working. Mara realizes that Joy has been crying, and Willow mentions that it's because she has a broken heart, and Mara finally puts it together that Joy actually did like Jerome and she wasn't just faking it for the plot. And she gets like really mad at Joy because she feels like she betrayed her and lied to her, which like, you can't help who you fall in love with, Mara. Like you told her to do this. A fake dating plot always ends in love, right? Have you never seen a rom-com? Victor and Miss Denby hear Mara and Joy fighting, and they think that, hey, maybe one of them is a good anger candidate for the sin. And but they decide to wait and see because they're waiting to see if Fabian succeeds in his plan before. So they keep the brats busy while they wait for Fabian, because that's what Robert told them to do. Alfie tells Eddie what he found out about Fabian, which is that he's actually evil, and he thinks that Fabian took KT to the gatehouse, but Fabian shows back up at Anubis' house, and Alfie confronts him, and then Eddie goes to the gatehouse and finds KT there, but Robert shows up behind him, and Alfie is like trying to provoke Fabian, and he gets him all riled up and angry, and Fabian's eyes glow red, and Alfie catches it on video. So now he can prove that that Fabian is actually evil. Robert brings Eddie back to the sarcophagus room, and Mr. Sweet and Patricia come out, and they say that they only need one more sinner to bring Emmett back. And then Willow and Joy find a wild hedgehog in the kitchen, and Willow decides that she is going to keep it. I know this sounds like not an important plot point, but just wait for it. It's actually really not, but I'm gonna keep it anyway because I think it's funny. Miss Denby also shows up at the gatehouse, and Eddie lets it slip about the summer house clue, and Patricia's like, "Thanks, Eddie. I really hadn't remembered." Because she used to like hold her ears when their parents would sing the nursery rhyme, but Piper didn't. So Alfie also heads to the gatehouse, and he finds KT there and shows her the video of Fabian's eyes glowing to prove that Alfie isn't isn't evil, but Fabian is. They overhear Victor talking to Mr. Sweet as he shows up to the gatehouse as well, and they figure out that they can only trap sinners in the hours of noon and midnight. So they didn't know this before. So they're gonna try to at least delay them from turning Eddie right now, so that they'll have a little more time to save him, and they can get him out at a later time when there's not like everyone at the gatehouse that they need to get by. Mara also freaks out on Joy again and says like all this stuff that she had with Jerome was supposed to be hers and blah blah blah, and she like takes the box of Jerome's stuff and like takes it to throw it out, but that box was actually the box that the hedgehog was in. So all of the sinners and Robert are trying to provoke Eddie to make him like all angry so they can put him in the sarcophagus and so he can become a sinner too. So they put him in, but he gets out and is like, "You really thought I was angry, didn't you? Okay, actor." And Robert gets all pissed and says that they'll finish the job tomorrow. They then hear like the organ playing downstairs, and they all leave, and it's just Eddie there alone. They go to like check out who's playing the organ. And so Eddie sneaks out and tries to run away, but he gets grabbed and taken back into the secret room, and Alfie and Willow leave and plan to come back in the morning. So it's now the next day, and there's some drama with the hedgehog, obviously, because Mara took the box. She'd thrown it in the trash, and the trash was collected. So Joy and Mara think that they threw out the hedgehog. But we, the audience, know that the hedgehog indeed was not in the box when she took it. So the hedgehog is still in their room somewhere, they just didn't see it. So Joy plans to find another hedgehog. And who's the man who can get anything? Jerome. So she goes to ask Jerome to help her. So they have cameras in the gatehouse. Not the students, like Robert has cameras in the gatehouse. And so Alfie is like dancing inside of them, and Robert sees it on the cameras and goes to check it out, and Alfie has the elevator come down to meet him. So Robert thinks he's in the elevator, but he's actually hiding somewhere, and in his hiding spot he finds a picture of the gatehouse from like a long time ago and sees that it used to be called the Gate Lodge, which his rhyme mentioned the Gate Lodge in it, so he thinks that one of his pieces might be there. KT goes up to get Eddie while Robert is distracted, and they also unplug his cameras and stuff while they're up there before they leave, and they all hide with Alfie in his spot, and Alfie goes back up to his secret room, sees that Eddie's gone, and calls someone to come check the grounds for them. Alfie tells him about the picture and how he thinks that the piece of the artifact is in the chimney because the rhyme says something about a hothouse. And meanwhile, Jerome brings Joy a hedgehog. I don't know, who knows where he got it. And Joy gives it to Willow, but they then see the original hedgehog is still in the room. It came out from like under the bed or something. So now they have 2 hedgehogs, and Willow names them Victor and Trudy, which is really funny. So Alfie decides back at the gatehouse to climb up the chimney to see inside of it to see if he can find the artifact. So he does that, and he finds like this like old box, and he grabs it, and Robert and Denby showed up at some point, and they hear noises coming from the chimney, and they know someone's in there. So they're like waiting at the bottom as Alfie comes down with the box, and he drops the box on the floor and kicks it over to Eddie and KT, and they grab it, and Alfie tells them to leave, and they do, and they tell him not to sin so they won't be able to capture him. So then Victor, Robert, and Miss Denby take Alfie up to the secret room, and they make him the 5th and final sinner by threatening Willow and making him get angry at them. He comes out and his eyes are glowing, so it did indeed work. Eddie and KT are trying to figure out the last of the nursery rhymes, and they overhear Patricia and Fabian talking about how they have Robert's journals and how there are mentions of the summer house in the journals, and that they are gonna go to where the journals point them to and destroy the last artifact. Jerome, Mara, and Joy and Willow are like itching a lot, and Trudy figures out that there's fleas. They have fleas in the house. presumably from the wild hedgehogs that Willow brought in. Patricia and Fabian, while they're talking about Summer House, Patricia has like a mirror and she can like see Eddie and KT listening to them in the hall. So they like know that they're listening, which is weird, but they're like letting them purposely hear them. So they both separately go to the location that the artifact is supposedly at. And Mara and Joy are trying to convince Willow to get rid of the hedgehogs because there's fleas in the house now. And evil Alfie comes in and just like breaks up with Willow in front of them. And he then also like hits on Mara and Joy right in front of her, and she leaves the room crying. And it's actually really sad because Alfie's so sweet and Willow's so sweet, and I feel bad for her. Eddie and KT make it to the summer house, and they notice some sort of clue in the architecture that is pointing towards a little statue that ends up opening up to reveal the artifact. And Eddie says it looks like there's something like moving inside of it. I don't know. And Patricia and Fabian are also there and watching them. And KT leaves first, and then Eddie gets trapped by Patricia and Fabian, and they said that they figured they'd have them find it for them and will take KT to the gatehouse to meet Amit if Eddie doesn't give the artifact to them. So he like pretends to throw it to them, actually doesn't, throw something else I guess, and they let KT go to catch it, and she gets away with Eddie, and they take the piece of the artifact with them. So they get back and they put the artifact together, and Eddie gets like a vision on how to use it that shows him putting it in a hole in the middle of the floor in the sarcophagus room. So they try to leave to go use it, but KT gets stopped by Miss Denby, so Eddie goes on by himself. Willow is really upset about Alfie, obviously, and goes on a like monologue about if you love something, set it free, and she sets her hedgehogs free. Mara and Joy watch all this, and they end up making up because they don't want a boy to get in the middle of them anymore. It's just silly. Mara's like, okay, I guess I should let your room free, whatever. Eddie runs into Willow outside while he's going to the gatehouse, and he ends up dropping KT's key, and Willow finds it after he leaves, and she sets the hedgehogs free, and so she takes the key with her. And Alfie's like, evil Alfie is talking to Jerome all crazy about something, and he makes Jerome realize that Joy actually really did like him. So he's like, oh, maybe I messed up. And Miss Denby is interrogating KT about Eddie's location, and Eddie tries to get into the gatehouse, but they changed the lock again on the code on the lock. So now that Eddie's there, Victor tells Robert that their guest has arrived. So he calls the sinners back in, and Eddie tries to reach Patricia's humanity by talking about all their romantic moments and stuff, but he was actually just trying to distract her to get into the gatehouse, and he ends up getting in. And the rest of the sinners are there trying to raise Amit, but Eddie walks in and puts the artifact into the hole in the ground, but then everyone starts like laughing at him because they actually needed the artifact in order to raise Amit, and it's like a staff, and they didn't know where it was and just had the kids look for it for them. So Amit starts being raised, and Eddie and KT try to leave, but the sinners stop them. And Robert says that he placed the recording on the phonograph thing, but he like changed it and recorded a new one that said that the pieces of the artifact were going to be used to stop the great evil in order to trick them into finding it, when in reality he actually needed it to summon Amit. So this confused me because why would Eddie get a vision on how to use it? Because usually his visions are like helpful and help them stop the evil, but in this case it is not. I don't know. Maybe it's just future things, and it's that he's going to do, and not just, I don't know. It's weird. They never really explain that. Robert also tells them that he needs KT's key, but she doesn't have it, remember? So Amit is now there, and she's like sort of like this like apparition thing, and she says that she's still not strong enough and she needs more souls so she can actually leave the room and whatnot, but she puts like some of her magic in a book. that's on the floor and says that that power is now theirs and to take and go turn people into sinners so that she can get more power, and then she will rule and chaos will reign. And during this chaos, Eddie and KT are able to sneak out, and Robert sends Victor after them to get the key. And Eddie thinks the key he must have dropped it somewhere, so they need to ask around and look around to see if anyone's seen it or something like that. And he thinks it must be important if Robert is so insistent that he needs it, or that he wants it so badly. Jerome tells Trudy about his girl problems, and he asks if she thinks that Joy was pretending or if she really liked him, and she tells him that she thinks Joy really did like him and that he should try to write her a romantic letter sharing his feelings. So he does that. Mr. Sweet and Robert gather all the other students in the school in the drama room, or all the ones that are on campus, I guess. Like Jerome and Joy, they're still at Anubis house, so they are there. And Robert does this whole monologue about the endless storm is going to begin, and blah blah blah, and he opens the book with power in it and says, "Great Amit, I give you the goodness in these souls," and this like black smoke covers everyone in the room, and they all get turned into sinners, and he tells them to go out and bring chaos. KT and Eddie get out of the room before the smoke is released fully, and so they don't get affected. Willow also wasn't affected, and Eddie and KT find her, but they get surrounded by everyone else, and they're outside at this point. So a van rolls up, or a car, I think it's a van, and it's being driven by Harriet. So KT, Willow, and Eddie get in and ride off with her away from the crazy sinners. And the sinners back at school are like going crazy and destroying things and basically like wreaking havoc upon the school. Robert says he needs both keys together to know that Amit is safe, and that she also needs even more souls, so they are gonna throw a Founders Day party for the next day to get more innocents there, like from the town and, you know, other students, things like that. Harriet tells KT, Eddie, and Willow that she stopped taking her medication and her head cleared, and that, so basically I think she was being medicated to like make her feel crazy, but she's actually not crazy. She's maybe a little eccentric, but yeah, her sister was basically having her drugged at this mental hospital to, like, she made the hospital think that her sister was crazy, and so they drugged her, and yeah, it actually did make her crazy. Anyways, so she tells them that Amit's here and that her power has increased, but not enough to leave the room yet. And Eddie mentions that Willow was immune, and Harriet's like, no one's immune, but it takes a very special object to protect yourself. There's a special key. And Willow goes, oh, like this? And pulls out the key, KT's key. And they're like, oh, okay. And Harriet tells them that the moon key is used as protection, and when it is used with the sun key, it can lock Amit away in the beyond and take her evil away with it. So they have Willow keep the key because they think she'll be like the least likely person that the sinners think will have it, because she's not really involved in any of that. Jerome gives Joy the letter, and she gives it to Mara without reading it because she doesn't want to be tempted back to Jerome, and she doesn't want to cause issues between her and Mara anymore, so she has her keep it safe to keep her from reading it, basically. Evil Alfie, Patricia, and Fabian show back up to Anubis' house to wreak havoc, and they get everyone to come down in the foyer, and Robert also shows up, and he acts like he's gonna give flowers to Trudy, but then he drops them on the ground and like stomps on them, and then he opens the book when they all get there and turns them all evil. And then Harriet, Eddie, and KT and Willow sneak into the gatehouse through a hidden entrance that I think Harriet showed them, I don't know. And Miss Denby is there, like sleeping, sitting up, like, you know, we're really gonna fall for this, like in the middle of the day. And she's got the key around her neck, and Willow and KT go to try to steal it while Eddie and Harriet are like off keeping watch, but they're like watching. And they go to take the key off her neck, and she wakes up. and she opens like a can of Amit's power and turns KT and Willow evil. And they tell Victor and Miss Denby where Eddie and Harriet are hiding. And so Victor and KT go after them, but Denby keeps Willow there with her. And Willow tells Denby that the key was supposed to protect her, but she's evil, so she must have dropped it somewhere. But KT ends up catching up to Harriet and Eddie and tries to tell them that she doesn't know what happened because she's still normal and not evil. Harriet admits that she secretly took the key from Willow and put it in KT's pocket because she thought that they'd have a better chance at defeating Amit with KT, who knows the lore and everything, instead of Willow doing it because she doesn't know anything. And KT gets pissed at her for putting Willow's life at risk, but it was probably the best decision. So they come up with a plan to get the other key. Mr. Sweet, Victor, and Robert gather the students the next day for the Founders Day party. And KT, Harry, and Eddie show up at the front door of the gatehouse where Fabian is there guarding it, and they pretend to be evil and he lets them in. Willow tells Robert that KT could have the key and might have just been pretending to be evil. So Robert rushes to do the evil with everyone there for Founders Day so that they can give Amit enough power. And Miss Denby's up there with Amit, telling her that she should be her favorite disciple and be given the most trust because instead of Robert, because he's the most devoted. I don't know. And then Harry and KT come in, and Miss Denby tells her that she brought them there for her and that this is even further proof that she should be the favorite disciple. And she's still wearing the key around her neck. And KT goes to grab it, and Amit says that something's wrong and that girl is protected, and starts doing some crazy magic and stuff. And in the chaos, Harriet grabs the key from Denby's neck and throws it to Eddie, which protects Eddie, but now Harriet has been turned evil. And the endless storm has started outside, and it's like, oh, the sky's all like red, and there's thunder and lightning, and Eddie and KT go to put the key into the hole, which is at the bottom of the staff that they had put in the floor. And Robert comes in, which I guess is why they showed them, I guess that's why he had the vision, because this is how you lock her up, I don't know. And Robert comes in and tries to convince KT that he will grow old and disappear if she does that, and what, she can't do that to her great grandfather, come on KT. But she ends up doing it with Eddie, a push from Eddie, and they put it in and go to lock it, but Miss Denby comes and pushes them out of the way, and then Amit targets Miss Denby, and in the distraction, Eddie and KT are able to put the keys in and lock it. And then the staff explodes into tiny pieces, and Amit disappears, and everyone starts coming to, and they're like, what happened? The last thing I remember is whatever happened right before they were turned evil. So they don't remember anything from when their souls were locked away. Robert is all old now, and he says that his original intentions were good, and that's why he sent her grandfather the letter and the key. Alfie tries telling Willow that he doesn't even remember breaking up with her and that it was demonic possession, and she says, demonic possession? Oh, that old excuse. Yeah, girl. Tell him. Patricia tells KT, thanks for taking care of Eddie while she couldn't, and she's still giving, jealous vibes a little bit, girl. Have you not learned? And Victor tells them that they've decided to let them have the Founders Day party after all, since they've all been through a lot. Yeah, Victor, you got your comeuppance. You thought you were going to be this big, glorious guy, and instead you got your soul stolen. Just teach you a lesson. Stop messing with this shit, okay? It never works out. Also, we never really figured out what happened with the last gold tier that his dad left him. I'm assuming he used it to make elixir, but I feel like he never found the recipe for elixir. I don't know. Anyways, Alfie tells Willow that he adopted not a hedgehog, another hedgehog for her, not a wild one, but one that she could actually have as a pet. And so they end up making out and it's really cute. And then Robert and Harriet show up and they tell KT goodbye and that they are going to Egypt for a trip for some reason, for the old time's sake. Mara and Alfie set Joy and Jerome up to have them like in a room together so that they can figure out their issues, and Mara tricks Joy into reading the letter that Jerome left her, and she's like reading it out loud, and Jerome comes in and like finishes it for her, and they end up kissing, and Mara threatens him to not hurt her, like they hurt her. And she also tells Joy, like, what kind of friend would I be if I stood in your way and stopped you from being happy? So she gives them her blessing. We then see Mara and Fabian have like a flirty little moment, and they're like nerding out, and they recite the numbers of pi at the same time. So clearly they're leaving a cliffhanger on something that happened between them, but honestly, I'm not seeing it. Eddie and Patricia have a cute little moment as well, and he tells her she's gonna worry about, she's always been it for him, and they kiss as like the fireworks are going off for the Founders Day, and it's all good vibes, and they do one more Sabuna salute, and it's just not the same without Amber. She made that salute up and the name, okay? I think they could have had her come back for this last episode. I don't know. But like I got emotional. I was like, oh, it's over. And that is how House of Anubis season 3 and the whole show ended. What did you guys think of that ending? I thought, I mean, it was good for what it was, I think. Obviously I missed characters that left, but I mean, the show as a whole, I liked. Like, it has this like nostalgic, old, like 2000s vibe, obviously, because that's when it was filmed. And I don't know, I feel like it could be one of the shows that I would put on in the background just for like good vibes, as like, you know, comforting show that I don't have to pay 100% attention to because I've seen it before, you know what I mean? It's kind of like how I feel about like Gilmore Girls and stuff like that. Obviously not as good as Gilmore Girls, but yes, there were plot holes. Yes, there were messy relationship dynamics. Yes, there was bad acting. Yes, my favorite character left the show. But I mean, I enjoyed it. Every time I would like finish watching a season to then film, I'd be like, man, I wish I could start the next season, but I had to, you know, do other things. So yeah, I enjoyed myself. I hope you guys did too. This is the last House of Anubis video. Hey, editing here. So I just found out while editing this that there's a House of Anubis movie called Touchstone of Ra that focuses on the students after their graduation. So if you'd like me to review that too, I can do that in another video. So let me know. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought. I'm sorry it took so long. I've been busy. I started at a new job, and I'm also gonna be starting classes soon. So my posting might get a little bit even more sporadic, but my plan, my next TV show that I'm gonna do videos on is gonna be Under the Dome. If anyone has watched that, get hyped for that. Don't know when that'll be, but sometime. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts of the show. Your favorite characters, favorite moments. There's a lot of iconic ones, I feel. Thanks for watching. Bye!